PSA is investing $200 million into their business. How are they going to pay for it? Well, apparently half increase of turnaround times, half increase in prices. We're going to talk about that next, coming up on the Ungraded Truth podcast. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how can it ever get crazier? And then it always does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the #1 collectible podcast in the universe. I am the host, along with my other co-host. I'm Swaggle Haas. I have on the screen with me, Manu at the 99 Newsstand, Lawrence, Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and Rob, Neo Cards and Comics. Of course, we also are missing Automatic Comics tonight, but he actually couldn't make it for this show because he has a triathlon that he's competing in, which is pretty cool. We wish him the best of luck, but that's a good thing that he had to sub out because he may have wanted to duck this episode. And, we couldn't, since he is getting off the hook, we had to bring Lawrence back in by popular demand since he was on our last manga show. And Lawrence, thanks again for joining us tonight. It's good to have you back on.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. I loved being on the last time, talking about something that kind of went a little viral. So I'm happy to do it again.
Yeah, definitely. We are definitely going to address a lot of the viralness and the mudslinging that was going around in the manga collecting space, specifically pointed at our podcast here. But I guess that is a testament to our podcast making some noise to the tune of our YouTube channel, now almost a stone's throw away, literally one subscriber away from 1,500 subscribers. So if you guys haven't yet subbed up the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, the link is in the description. Also, we are over on Spotify, so be sure to head over to our Spotify page. Give us a listen. Give us a 5-star review. We would definitely appreciate it. If you guys don't know, the Ungraded Truth podcast is a co-stream across all of our various streams. We are bi-weekly live on Neo's channel, on my channel. Sometimes when Ryan is here on Automatic Comics' channel, on Neo's Twitter. I don't know if we're live on Lawrence's Twitter or YouTube as well, but if we are, be sure to head to the description. Give everybody a sub, a like. Make sure that you follow them because we appreciate them taking the time to talk collectibles tonight, which is definitely what we are going to get into now because we got to get right into it. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to get into the manga thing, but the first thing that we have to discuss is the big news coming out of PSA that they are going to be investing $200 million and 1,000 new jobs because of the fact that card grading is increasing in its demand. Shout out to Benjamin Burrows, friend of the channel, who has this article right here on the New York Times. I'm going to go through this kind of press report. We'll talk about some of the highlights, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty. Professional Sports Authenticators parent company Collectors is investing $200 million into the authentication and grading giant to expand operations over the next 18 months. The company announced Thursday, PSA will use the new funding to grow the company's physical footprint, develop and deploy new technology, and hire for 1,000 open and planned positions through 2026. The industry leader in trading card authentication by submission volume, PSA graded over 19 million cards in 2025, more than 14 million ahead of its closest competitor, and up from 2 million in 2020. The article kind of goes on to explain, the expansion here. They talk about how in 2021 they invested 100 million. So now here in 2026 they're going with 200 million. But maybe the most important thing, and the part that you guys watching might be the most interested in, is as a result of this, they've had to increase their turnaround times to, honestly, is just straight up a ridiculous amount. Now, if you are submitting value bulk, the turnaround time is 140 to 160 days. Doing the math in your head, what is that? Like 7 months. This is like almost COVID levels of wait time for PSA card turnaround times, value 100 to 120, value plus 60 to 80, et cetera, et cetera. I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to kind of check out some of these turnaround times. Super Express, still 7 to 10 days. Walkthrough, still 5 to 7. And then due to high demand, PSA is also increasing the price of its Super Express service level from $299 per card to $349 per card. I'm going to table it right there. Let's talk a little bit about this. Rob, of course, I'm going to look over to you, but PSA investing $200 million. Why do we have to pay for it?
There's a stealth update that you missed there too on the minimum for cards submitted for bulk went from 20 to 50. Which is actually a pretty significant change as well, because a lot of people struggle just to get to the 20 card minimum, and now it's a 50 card minimum. That also means the sub itself is way more expensive, because 20 cards at whatever it is, $25 a piece versus 50 cards at $25 a piece is pretty rough. But yeah, it's grading's a mess everywhere. It's not just PSA. They're backed up, CGC is backed up, Tag is backed up, Beckett is backed up, and SGC is backed up. So not necessarily to this degree, but it is just an absolute shit show out there right now in the grading space. Not for comic books though, but for cards. As you like to say, Swags, comics could never.
Comics could never.
Could never. I mean, like, guys, what do you think about those turnaround times? Like, I haven't sent PSA cards, or I haven't sent cards in for PSA grading in a while, probably since, I don't know, almost like 2021, 2022 times. But at the same time, like, that seems like a ridiculous wait time for me.
Man, that's long.
How is that possible?
Yeah, unless you're willing to pay the piper, cut the line. It's like a Disney Fast Pass.
I did send a submission. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I did just send a submission in. It didn't even meet the minimum for the previous bulk, but I didn't want to wait. I think when I was creating that submission, shipped it off maybe like a week and a half ago. It was like 75 or 80 or 95 business days. It was already a lot, but I did some of the cards in Express at $149 a card, and that I believe was 15 business days. And then I used a different tier at, I think, $79 or $89 a card for the rest of them. And that one was, the fuck was that? 25 or 30 business days, 35 business days, something like that.
That sounds about right.
And even those, like 15 business days is great, but it's $150. And now what is that one now?
That one stayed the same. It's the Super Express, like the 5 business day one that went up.
Okay, when you have the crazy cards. Yeah, when you have the big deal cards.
Which most people that are grading something like that probably don't care about the extra $50.
I heard that on your video, and I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you, like, I forget what the max declared value on a Super Express order is, but it's probably like in the tens of thousands of dollars. So I don't think that you're going to give a shit about an extra $50.
No, you shouldn't. No. Yeah, you likely won't. But whatever these turnaround times that we just looked at, 50 minimum bulk, 100 and what the hell was it? 150,
160 business days upwards too.
It's just like, and I understand.
And that's business days, not days. So
yeah.
There's what, like 23-ish business days a month, maybe.
Right, and they're not doing this because they want longer turnaround times. It is what it is. This is the climate that we're in, with the popularity of grading and the popularity of PSA. So it is what it is. But just from the perspective of me as someone that submits, removing everything else from the equation, I understand the idea of, well, just send them in. Eventually they get turned around. If you're discouraged by the turnaround time and you never send them in, then they'll never get turned around. So, just send them in. But like, damn, just looking at those numbers just makes me, it's discouraging, man. It's like, it's a long time, but I get it. It's a popular service, and collecting and grading is, I guess, at all-time highs. And this is reflective of that. I look forward to this $200 million being put to use, and those turnaround times coming down to something that's more, that I can be more excited about, and just willy-nilly send some cards. I don't really willy-nilly send anything, but at least I'll explore sending some more if I knew the turnaround time wasn't half a year.
The crazy part is, like, you would legitimately submit cards today and you might not see them until Christmas.
Man,
like when you start figuring out the math on that, like there's like a real shot that you might not see them till Christmas.
And I'm so impatient. Like, part of submitting cards is just getting to the, the grade reveal, and waiting that long for a grade reveal just kind of just, it's deflating.
You would legitimately forgot what you sent.
Exactly. And that's actually a gift here, right? Like, I mean, that's actually, you hope to forget, or else you can't count these days. You just got to forget it. Send it and forget it.
Yeah.
Can I ask Rob, because
I was just saying, key thing to keep in mind too is the PSA doesn't get paid until the card's graded. So they don't get, like, they accept the submission now, but you pay once your grades pop. So like a card that you're submitting today, you're not actually paying, like PSA is not getting paid on that until December.
Not only that, but your account or whatever card you have on file is not getting charged, right? So what if you budgeted for it, allocated for it, and then out of nowhere you get hit with whatever the bill is, depending on what you sent in, unexpected, So You gotta forget it, but also remember, because
the other crazy part too is like for TCG and non-sports and Marvel cards, it doesn't matter quite as much. I mean, that market can shift a lot, but like people submitting sports cards, like if you submit a football card today, you're gonna get it back like at the end of the football season.
Wild.
Hilarious. Can I ask Neo? Maybe this was within the article, or maybe it's just coincidence. But like, did they just kind of slip in this increase in turnaround times next to this PR report of 200 million, or is there a reason connected to the 200 million investment as to why they have to increase the turnaround times?
Well, I mean, they've been struggling keeping up for a while. They had a price increase about 2 months ago when I had Ryan Hogue, the president, on talking about it, and that was the slowdown. Like they were. The amount of submissions coming through the door was getting more and more. So they increased prices in like September. It was fall-ish to try to slow things down. That didn't work. So if my memory is correct, they increased turnaround times in the winter. That didn't work. Then in the late winter, early spring, they increased prices again. And people were super pissed about that. And it literally deterred nobody. They got even more cards through the door. And in the meantime, they're not able to catch up at all. So then we get to this point where it's like, this is where we're at right now. So we have to make the turnaround times longer because it's a simple math equation. They could put X number of cards out the door and X number of cards are coming in the door. Like if you, I don't know if you have the PSA press report, like the actual PSA release pulled up. It shows those two line graphs of how many cards are getting graded and how many cards are coming in. And they start to separate like this. And it's like the math stops working. And like when I had Ryan on last time, we talked about like the hiring process. And he's like, great, like we need to hire people. Cool. But it takes us months just to train a grader before we even let them grade a card on their own. So it's kind of like a dog chasing its tail of, oh shit, we're getting too many cards. We need to hire people. We hire people. Oh shit, we're still getting too many cards. We need to hire more people. But that's like, you know, takes months to get them trained and ready to rock and roll.
I definitely want to hear. Oh, sorry. I apologize.
No. Well, I was just gonna double click on that. Like, but what's the bottleneck here? And let's call it what it is. Because I feel like there's a lot of sports collectors that are really upset about this, and I've heard them throw out solutions of like it should be TCG that like has to wait longer or whatever like this. Like, what is this just like massive vendors? Yeah, like is this just like massive Pokemon vendors that are just like clogging up like all of the demand here for grading? Like, where's the bottleneck?
I don't think it's just dealers. It's just people like Pokemon and they send it in the hordes, and Pokemon is hotter than it's ever been, both from a sealed perspective and a singles perspective. Prices slowed down on that market for like a hot minute around Thanksgiving and then immediately shot right back up on everything again and has been red hot since then. Their releases have been extremely strong. Like Ascended Heroes came out a couple of months ago, and it's just a massive popular set with huge cards in it. And they print the shit out of that stuff because the demand's so high. So that's just tons and tons of cards getting sent in. And then on the sports side, Topps has all the licenses now. They're cranking out releases. There's a new Topps release almost every day for something between football, basketball, baseball, non-sport. It's just like a never-ending supply of cards coming, and everyone's addicted to grading. Like people forget, like you could just sell the card raw. Like that doesn't like enter people's thoughts anymore.
Let me ask a question, because when we get to 140 to 160 day business turnaround time, at that point, when people are still submitting cards, do we think it's collectors? Or is it still mostly dealers at that point trying to just submit whatever they can? Because I feel like at that length of wait time, like I can't imagine too many dealers when they want to send cards in to wait that long to kind of turn their product and sell it. That's a long time. So are we back into an era where we're seeing a lot more collectors grade their cards to keep in their collection, or is it still mostly dealers?
I think it's both, because the way dealers do it, like they're constantly sending stuff in, so they're constantly getting stuff back. I mean, think of it just like a comic book dealer. Like every month you're sending 50 books in or whatever. So you kind of have this constant flow of stuff coming back to you. It might be from stuff from months ago, but if you're sending in X number of things like every single week, you kind of have a constant flow of return coming back. That most dealers that I know are constantly sending stuff out, so they're always having inventory come back in, but it does make it difficult. You know, a lot of regular collectors now are going through GameStop to submit because you don't have to have a minimum, so you get to avoid that minimum. And the GameStop turnaround times seem to trend a little faster than sending on your own, just because of the way that the workflow works with those submissions compared to a normal person's. But I think those times are going to get extended out as well. They used to be at 90 days, and I don't think that's going to be the case if it's not already.
Well, let me put the tinfoil hat on for that then. Like, is this by design? Are they trying to like incentivize people to not submit, you know, their own personal 50 bulk whatevers?
I don't think so, because once again, it gets back to there's no incentive for PSA to take longer to grade the card because they don't get paid out till the end. I think in a perfect world, they would want it to be back to where it was. Like I was looking at my old grading submissions because I've only sent in like one card in the last, I think since May of last year. May of last year was my last like 20 card submission. And then I had a 1 card submission like a month ago. And that's all that I've sent card wise. But they don't get paid till the end. And back then they were turning stuff around. You were sending a bulk order in and you were getting it back in under 60 days. Like it was great. And for them, I think that's honestly where they wouldn't mind being, because that's just them. They don't want to sit on. Could you imagine the storage facility that they have to store these millions of cards that they have piled up, and that all has to be secured? Like that has to be a headache for them. So there's no way they want all that crap laying around longer than they have to have it.
Permission to do some, well, actually, I'll do some shilling in a moment. But Neo, I want to ask you a question.
Is it going to be the double shill or just a single shill?
I'm going to go for the triple. You know, let's really have some fun. Yeah, you know, we have set a couple of losers last week. Let's find a couple more.
Get your clip machines ready, folks, if you want to get this triple shill on tape.
Yeah, everybody. Let's
save the good stuff for later in the show. We gotta, warm them up first. My God, straight to the triple shill.
The triple shill, I like it.
I was always told never to triple shill in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah,
rules are meant to be broken, Neo. You know, we're reinventing.
Right, shill away.
Yeah, all right. We're but first, in regards to Briscoe's with us. What's up, Briscoe? How are you? He said something here, and I just because we're talking about in regards to cards, and this is how it works in comics too, because I've done some comic submissions as well. You don't get charged until the order is processed or graded, or at some point down the line. It's not when you create the order. And I can't speak to this because I've never submitted a VHS, and I just did a quick Google search. It didn't come up with the information. I didn't do like a mock submission here. But Briscoe said when you submit, not VHS, sorry, video games, you get charged up front when you submit the paperwork. Now, we could talk about that specifically, but Neo, are you familiar with that? That some of the grading, some of the things that you can grade with PSA get charged up front? Is that accurate? Is that information that you have?
I've never graded anything other than cards and comics, so I can't speak to the other categories and how they might work. So part of the reason PSA does it at the end is because of the way that they charge your order for potential upcharges.
Yeah,
is a part of it. And a lot of folks, you can have arguments on this both directions. A lot of people like the fact, some people really like paying up front because you just pay and then it's kind of like, okay, that's done. But a lot of dealers specifically, and just general folks that are just doing like your average casual, maybe like I'm sending 20 and I'm going to flip 10 and keep 10 type person.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big benefit for those folks to get charged at the end because you're getting charged as they ship. So you might get charged on like June 1st. You get the cards back in hand on the 10th. You have them on eBay and sold, or maybe you're taking PSA instant offers and you have all that, like you flip that entire inventory before your bill even comes due to pay for the grading at the end of the month. So a lot of people like that very condensed time frame of the billing, like from when you get your cards to when you're actually billed for it, because you're not laying out hundreds or thousands of dollars for the grading submission and then waiting. Like imagine how pissed people would be if you paid up front for a 50 card order. What would that be? Like $1,200-$1,300, and you're not getting that back for 9 months. Like how pissed off people would be in that case. Like you're laying out $1,000-$1,500 and you're not going to see any return on it if you're selling part of that order till Christmas.
No, that's a crazy time to wait.
Yeah, that's a long time to wait. So that was interesting. And then this is just a fun little show part. Just because it has to do with turnaround times, it has to do with something PSA just announced recently. And Swag, you talked about it in a video that you did. You did an interview with Dan and Gene at Shortbox, that partnership. And this is just, worth mentioning that yes,
There's a double show.
It's a double show. It is. Comic book turnaround times are not as long as cards, but not everyone loves the turnaround times. But if you do that new service that they offer where it's great to sell, they actually reduce the turnaround time to incentivize using that service. And I thought that's worth mentioning. That's kind of cool. There is a place there at PSA where you get a discount and it's discounted. So it's a discounted rate and it's quicker. So at least some comic book folks can get some grades and get some things sold in less amount of time for what that's worth. And that is my shill. This has been a paid promotion. It wasn't actually. It wasn't.
Don't say this stuff because it actually isn't. And then people are going to clip you and be like, oh, it was y'all's news. He admitted it. He said it was paid.
I know. It's that dinner from 3 years ago that I'm still milking, right?
When you're not getting paid for it and you're still showing it. That's
actually, yeah. Well, I think that's just called being a fan, to be honest. But,
No. That your mouthpiece of the company, your shill.
Yeah.
Your stooge.
That was a shill drop. That was a drop. It was a drop. It was people waited in line for that one. Yeah.
We're going to talk more about shilling in a second. And, it is interesting because, back to the PSA thing, they could be trying to incentivize certain types of programs. That could be one of the reasons for, bottlenecking or delaying turnaround times. But the other reason that there could be delayed turnaround times is because, guys, PSA came out with this report that over $200 million worth of fraudulent collectibles are sent in for grading all of the time. Like, this is a crazy infographic that they put out. I'm just going to kind of flip through some of the pages here where they talk about like the increase in fraudulent fake cards that are being sent to them. The top categories for them, maybe unsurprisingly, Pokemon being that's the biggest category that goes to PSA all to begin with. So there's a ton of fakes that are being sent through their doors: baseball, basketball, football, Yu-Gi-Oh, the ones that come after that. This was crazy to me that there were 13 submitted Honus Wagners. I guess this is last year, and 12 of them were counterfeit. Like, that's crazy that you have people going for this grail of grail baseball card, trying to do a counterfeit, similar like a Mickey Mantle and Michael Jordan cards. 3,285 submitted, 821 of them were counterfeit. So just kind of flipping through this graph, it was really interesting. I guess I'll throw it back to you, Neo. I mean, because you did a coverage of this and talked about it in your video. What was the sentiment within the community and the reaction after PSA put out this report?
You'll be shocked by this. There was two schools of thought. One side was, oh, this is great. This is really good information. And then the other side was, oh, these bastards just did this to scare you out of ever buying a raw card again, that you can only buy a graded card and you have to send all your cards in the PSA to be graded. Otherwise, they're all fake. So it just depends on what, do you want the tinfoil on or off, depending on the audience. The biggest takeaway for me was flip back, go one more to the left. My left.
The real left.
One more. That one right there. So the interesting thing on here is, like, a couple of those cards are very expensive cards. But the scariest thing of this whole report was some of those cards are like 25, 50 bucks, maybe, if you're lucky. Like that Aaron Judge card is not expensive at all. That's like maybe a $10 or $20 card. And that's the scary part, because that's the stuff that if you're walking around a card show and you see one in a dealer case or in like a value box labeled for 10 bucks, like, you're never going to question that card. You're never going to take that out and like look it over. But if you see a raw 86 Fleer Jordan, you're going to scrutinize the hell out of it. You're going to be phoning a friend. You're going to be looking that thing under a microscope. You know, it'd be like finding an X-Men 1 Jim Lee raw in a dollar bin versus like, oh, I have this raw AF-15 here. Do you want to take a look at it? You know, like the AF-15, you're going to be going over it with a fine tooth comb and calling everyone that you know to make sure, like, tell me everything you know that's fake about an AF-15. Versus like an X-Men 1 or whatever, like some random 90s book that has a little bit of value, but that was printed to the moon and back again, that just kind of like blends in with everything. I think in my video, I made the comparison to like counterfeiting $10 bills.
Yeah.
It's like you're just not going to have the same due diligence when you're interacting with an item like that because of the cost. That was the scary part of this report. Like the next page over to the right, the Pokemon version of this, like that gray felt hat Pikachu is an extremely valuable card. There are 40,000 PSA 10s on the pop report, I believe.
I think it has the biggest market cap of all collectibles.
Yeah.
Meaning like there's the most value of all the items.
You're never going to question if a dealer has 5 or 10 of those in a case because they're everywhere. I mean, they're for whatever reason, that card baffles me. They're extremely valuable, even though they're ridiculously common. And it's just like no one would question someone for having a lot of those.
I was related but sidetracked based on what Swag just said. This idea of taking a card, its population, and multiplying it by its most recent sale and calling that a market cap. Is that popular terminology? Is that used often? Do people refer to collectibles, their price times the population, as a market cap? Is that even does that even make sense to say? Like, I understand
it doesn't make any sense when you logic it out, but it's something that I've seen content creators use as a talking point, even though it's kind of illogical when you think about it.
No, I've heard it here and there, and obviously I hear it in reference to cryptocurrencies and stock market. And I mean, that's where I've traditionally heard it, and I'm just like, does that make sense, or is that like, is that just another way to sort of hype up a market? Like, what is that actually?
It doesn't really. The reason I pointed out, it's like it's not a term that I frequently use, but I put it out because that's the Pikachu Gray Hat one is the number one in the entire collectible landscape. So I thought that was a little fun fact. But yeah, does that mean that card actually has that amount of liquidity at any given time? I mean, maybe not. Like, you know, so it's kind of like a silly number, but. Lawrence, let me kind of throw it to you. Like, what do you kind of make of this report? I don't know if you got a chance to look at it, but like, is this sort of like and this is why we need grading, or is this sort of like of course, PSA is going to put out a report that says, look at how good we are for finding all of these fakes?
You know, I'm going to compare it to something that happened in the comic market with the whole CGC Swapgate thing. I mean, Neil just touched on it. With some of these common cards that you're going to find for $10 or $20, nobody's going to even blink an eye and even look into it. But we go back to that, you know, Swapgate, where the guy was taking out the books and then swapping, you know, 9.8 or 9.6 newsstands with all of a sudden Mark Jeweler 9.8 books that are like ridiculously rare. Now all of a sudden, everybody's looking into it. You're going to get more caught. So it kind of makes sense that these smaller cards are getting, you know, counterfeited because nobody's going to take the time to check. They're probably going to sell a ton of them because they're popular cards, especially, you know, guys like Aaron Judge, Yankee fan, you know, one of the better Yankees, of course, there are. But it makes sense. So to me, I've always been an advocate of grading. It's just, to me, it's always been the cost and it's always been the turnaround time. But I think with cards like this, you're not going to see anybody grade a $20 card because it's just too much money to spend to grade something like that. But when Neo talks about, of course, you know, a rookie Jordan card that somebody's going to find raw, you're going to inspect the hell out of that thing. So obviously you feel more comfortable, just like when you buy bigger grails. We're talking about comics. I think a lot of collectors feel more comfortable buying those grails, you know, already graded by whoever the grading company is, whether it's CGC or PSA, it doesn't really matter. But so I do think grading is necessary. There's no question. Whether you like it or not is a different story. But for high value things, especially, it's a no brainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Swag, I was not trying to diss you on the market cap thing. It was just curiosity. I'm sorry. I don't want no problem, Swag. Don't clap back at me with one of those videos. You demolish that guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to clap back at Manu for that. Yeah, you know, I just think that this is kind of an interesting thing because, like you said, Lawrence, it kind of gets into the like, this is sort of why we need grading, and but at the same time, like you said, Rob, there's like, this is the tinfoil hat, 4D chess, PR, like, you know, who's to say that it's actually fake? They're just saying that it's fake. I mean, who knows? Like, was there really 12 counterfeited things sent to them? I mean, it sounds good for them to say that there were 12 Honus Wagner fakes and they caught them, but like, we don't actually know if that's the case. But I do wonder, like, how many of this is people sending to them trying to get one over, meaning like they are the faker, or how many of this is like, oh, I own a Honus Wagner card, like, yay, I'm going to send mine in, and it's turns out you bought a fake 15 years ago.
I mean, there's really no way to know, but my guess is that most of the people counterfeiting these are probably just trying to move off of them raw, because why would you want to send them in the grading and then potentially like have an easier trail back to you. You know what I mean? Even if you're using a group submitter or something,
Right.
all of a sudden a group submitter gets 30 fake Aaron Judge Bowmans in an order. You know, PSA might reach out to them and be like, where'd these come from? Because they do work with law enforcement on stuff sometimes. So my assumption is that most of these fakes, especially probably on the Pokemon side, are probably just getting sold raw, and they're not trying to get like, that feels like getting like overly greedy of like, I have this $20 bill printer over here, but I want to try, that's not good enough for me. I want to try to turn it into a $100 bill by submitting it to grading, especially with turnaround times now. Like, just sell the thing raw if you're being nefarious.
You know what's weird is that Honus Wagner card, I remember talking about that card when I was a kid. Everybody knew about that card. And just to come to find that we are finding 12 counterfeit 12 counterfeit cards just on that one alone, to me is wild, because everybody knows about it. Everybody knows how rare it is. The value of that card is insane. So just as somebody who would try to do that is just crazy to me. The Jordan card, there's a ton of them out there. I went to a show last weekend. There were at least 20 to 30 in the room, graded.
Yeah, that's not a hard card to find.
Yeah.
The Star is hard to find, and the Mantle's pretty rare, but the Jordan 86 you find those everywhere. It's not like 89 Upper Deck Griffey levels of everywhere, but it's not hard to. If you go to any like a medium-sized show, you will be able to find one.
Definitely insane stuff. Manu, did you check the DM? Do you want to tell your story here about the Marvel card? Speaking of Marvel card, fake.
Not DM.
When I pointed to you, talk. No.
You said check the DM, guys. We're doing this live. I'm checking the DM, guys. I'm going to be brought up to speed. He did.
I meant the private. I meant the private chat.
Oh,
Manu, do we have story time with Manu about fake Marvel card 1/1 chase pulls, because it's like a big deal.
You know what?
It's really
actually, bro. I did not anticipate that you were going to bring this up, and I do want to talk about it. And it actually ties into something else that I didn't think I was going to talk about. And I'm going to leave names out, but it has to do with psychology. It has to do with something that kind of bothers me. And it has to do directly with those fake cards and the person that sold them and people that are doing business with that person still, and some of the reasons that people might do business with that person still, which I alluded to many, many weeks ago when we first talked about it, about why some people might keep a relationship with that individual. There might be some benefit there. And then most recently, someone I know did something that I in private, I did speak to him and say, yo, I disagree with that action. And he justified it for whatever reasons he did it. And anyway, do we want to tell that story now, or do we want to do a little story time at the end of the stream?
We have to make it a Manu's Minute. We have to make it an official section. Manu's Minute at the end of the stream.
We'll do that. We're going to talk. So at the end of the stream, guys, we'll talk a little bit about fake Marvel cards and something still happening with that individual that faked those cards. Stay tuned.
Do we have a sponsor?
In the meantime,
for Manu's Minute?
We don't have a sponsor, but we have a super chat from Frank Riker, who says, sending love to Swaggle House because Mother's Basement thinks he knows everything, included how to say people's tag names. Well, yes, he definitely mispronounced my name, which is why I had to make the video, which I guess is a great segue to bring us into our next topic. Now, the Ungraded Truth Show, our lowly show over here where we get together every other Saturday and talk about the wild world of collectibles, and we get together with all of our friends and we have these conversations, is starting to make waves, because we had an episode where we talked about some recent manga sales that went absolutely insane on Heritage Auctions. And we were talking about the craziness of the market and how the prices have doubled in less than a year, and how wild this is, and what does this actually mean for manga? Is this a real thing? And we asked those questions, and we threw out our thoughts and ideas, and we talked about Logan Paul, we talked about Jeremy, and we talked about how there could be tons of inventory that is coming out there, and you got to be careful about it. But when we talked about that, apparently people didn't actually listen, because this user over here, known as Mother's Basement, is a big YouTuber with 1 million+ subscribers, made a video commenting on the Logan Paul situation where he entered the graded manga market. And in the video, he actually pulled up us in our show when we had conversations about it, and kind of accused us of being market manipulators and shills and people that are working and friends with Logan Paul and Jeremy Padawar. And it was just completely clipped out of context, and it was kind of ridiculous. I actually made a response video to it. I don't know if you guys happen to see it, but it's this one right here where he called me and the rest of the guys on the panel parasites, and I made my response. I thought it was kind of interesting, and I felt like, I've already said my piece. I figured maybe I could throw it back to you guys here, since maybe you guys haven't had the chance to talk about it, or maybe we'll start with Manu. What did you think about the video when he put it out, and what was your reaction to it?
When he first put it out, when it first was brought to my attention, I was just amused. I was actually kind of like, oh shit, we got clipped, on a large channel. I thought it was kind of cool. I wasn't too troubled by being mischaracterized or whatever. And it's like super clipped, like even the portion of it where I'm speaking for maybe like 20 seconds, it's literally like 10 clips, like the head's here, then split second later, the head's here, and it's all just pieced together. It's like the complete thing is clipped out of context, and he took whatever serves his purpose. And I remember giving you a call and saying, I love this, because even when we had one of the episodes, because we had multiple episodes where we talked about manga, and later I'll talk about why I'm calling it manga now and not mangas. I was corrected. I didn't know that there's no S when it's plural. But that doesn't mean
if you mispronounce something, you're not allowed to talk about it. When you say Swaggle House, you're not allowed to talk about me for the future.
You're not allowed to have an opinion. You can't have an opinion on something that you don't own, or you don't sell, or that you didn't, secretly hoard for the last 15 years. You can't have an opinion. That's not allowed at all. And so anyway, I saw the clip and I was amused by it. At that time, the video had like 120,000 views, which was already impressive. And it was quickly ramping up. The guy's channel's got 1.4 million subscribers. And I gave you a call because I loved, like, the first thing he pulls up was the fact that you said, Jeremy Padawar, friend of the channel. Right. And I remember when you first said that, I cracked a smile at it. Right. Because, I thought that was amusing. And so he clearly took that very literally, or whoever found that clip for him, and thought, oh, my gosh, these guys are friends with Jeremy. This is clearly them shilling this stuff. And literally, like you said in your video, guys, you have to watch Swag's video, because he just went in. Like, he went so in. It's so beautiful. I love seeing Swag when he's got that fire in his eye and he's like really passionate, and he articulates his point so well. Like, I knew that he was going to make some sort of response. I didn't know how detailed it was going to be, how accurate it was going to be, how engaging it was going to be. So you guys got to watch that video, and I hope that other guy sees it too. Now, listen, I'm not mad at him, right? That's fine. And it was a little additional exposure. It was cool. You got a great video out of it. But then this other thing happened as a result of it. We have, forgive me if this sounds bad. No, this doesn't sound bad. I'm very appreciative and I'm very grateful. And I have a lot of gratitude for the fact that we have a lot of friends in this community. Like, we do get a lot of support, a lot of love. A lot of people do show appreciation. I love our community. I love the friends that we have, and we're received really well by them, and we're lucky for it. Like, it's a beautiful thing. But for some reason, we do have a couple, and it literally is only a couple. It's a handful of people, and they always pop up. They always say the same annoying thing, and they always back each other because they're losers, and losers, find comfort amongst other losers. Like, losers aren't challenged by other losers. They're challenged by winners, right? So, they find themselves having some opinion in common, and then they have a little loser party. And so in any case, one of the losers, saw that video. Right? Saw that video from the Mother's Basement guy, which, shout out to him. I got no issues with him, like the inflections in his voice are a little irritating, but that's all right. But people do that and people like that. He's got 1.4 million followers. He's doing something right. But one of the losers in the community saw that, clipped it, right, and threw it on his Instagram page. Now, I'm not going to mention the guy. A lot of people know the guy. He watches the content. He comments on the content. He hides in the shadows. And we know what sort of individual he is. And there's a few, and everyone's aware of what sort of individual he is. And there are a few people that have that in common with him. So in any case, he took that and he clipped it and he put it on his Instagram page, and good for him, because it did really well. So I think it's the most popular post he's ever created, ever, right? And he's always got some choice things to say here and there. And it's still, even when that happened, I wasn't bothered. But then there's somebody that is typically very friendly with me and has been historically, that decided to take an opportunity to leave a comment there. And the comment was along the lines of, I wish comic book people would stop speaking about manga. And by the way, the plural for manga is manga, not mangas. And clearly he's referring to me saying that because I'm the only person in that clip that keeps saying mangas over and over again. And in response to that, still being rather playful, my response to that comment, which I didn't want to engage with that post, but the post is getting plenty of engagement. A dozen people had already sent it to me. And so I was just like, my comment was mangas, 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 right? And I'm just being playful. Like, who gives a shit, you know? Like, it's fine. And then he responds back in a very serious way, you know, very sarcastic, very serious, very offended, calling me out for not doing even 5 minutes of research when thousands of people listen to us, and that I was disrespecting a culture or something along those lines. And hardly, no, I'm not. Like, that's ridiculous. Don't even take it there, right? And so then I was very open with the guy, and I responded to him, and I let him know that I just got my feelings hurt because you're usually so nice to me. We've had polite discord in the DMs and other comments, and you could have just politely corrected me as a friend. Like, I thought we had a good relationship, but you took this opportunity to say something sarcastic at my expense, and that's all. And then he didn't bother to respond to that, but then someone else gave him shit for saying that, like, oh, I guess if you get a word wrong, you can't have an opinion. And he did go ahead and respond to that comment, but didn't respond to my heartfelt one. And I imagine that's probably because maybe he felt it, you know, maybe he was like, oh, I guess Manu's kind of right here. You know, we do have a good thing. I didn't need to say that. Regardless, the point that I'm making in a rather extended way is the Mother's Basement video I was amused by. But when someone in the community took the clip and then I saw who was engaging with the clip, that's when I got my feelings hurt, because it showed me a few people's maybe not true colors, but it showed me what sort of resentment they might be harboring and for what reason. Because I took it upon myself to take a look at who was engaging with that comment. And some of those people were people that position themselves as a friend to me, or, you know, communicate with me as if they're friends. But if you're my friend, if you're a supporter, why would you go so far as to put a like on that comment? Now, I'm being a bit petty saying this, and I'm exposing some vulnerabilities of my own, but we are human at the end of the day. I always say this. When someone has a criticism of me in the comment section, just address me. Don't say, oh, that one guy. You know me, you talk to me in my DMs. Like, what the hell changed? You know, just because now I'm on this show with swag and friends every Saturday, does that mean I'm somebody different now because I'm speaking and more people are listening? No, it's still the same person that you were communicating with for 6 years since I started the page. What changed? You changed. I didn't change. I'm still having the same opinion, just on a screen at this point. And so I make note of that. As petty as it might be, I make a mental note of who's engaging with a hater's content, especially if the hater is getting some visibility at my expense, and it changes how I feel about that individual. And then I begin to have a bit of a grudge. Now, the way that I decide to, you know, get my lick back is in a more sensible sort of way, and maybe sometimes not at all. I'm not offended like I was a week or two ago when I first saw that comment, but I do like the therapeutic nature of being able to get this off of my chest here and just recognize that, yeah, there are a couple of haters. There's only a few. And anytime we slip up, even in the slightest, they latch onto it. And this was a great opportunity for them to have fun, and they had some fun. But it exposed some people for being two-faced. It exposed some people for just not being really great. And I learned some truths, and that's more valuable than not knowing it. So it's actually something to be grateful for, because now I know who to never respond to, never give any time or energy to. And we are living rent-free in their head because they're clipping us, they're reposting us, and they're talking about us. So congratulations to us, I think. Like, I'm not sure how else to put that. But yeah, so not terribly bothered by it, but bothered enough to speak on it, and disappointed in some people, but good to know that a few people suck.
Well said. Mic drop, to be honest. I mean, that was really well said. And I'll echo it. I mean, I'm with you. Like, it's like you said, it's a little surreal. Like, sometimes, you know, you guys, I know that, like, yeah, when we make content here, like, we're kind of characters. Like, I realize, like, I'm a character in, like, a lot of people's life, you know, like, I feel a certain, you know, oh, he's the comic book guy and he does the kind of this thing and he has like his sort of humor and tone and talks about this stuff or whatever. But, like, yeah, I'm a real human being. I have a real life. And I tend to think that when I see people in person, I've met a lot. I met everyone here on screen in person multiple times, and I met a lot of people in our community and had interactions with them, and always had a great time. And it's so fun meeting people in real life. And yeah, it is a little weird where it's like, it's one thing if this guy makes a video and puts me on it, and it's like he's kind of using me for his thesis for, you know, his feelings about Logan Paul. That's one thing. But then it's weird when, yeah, there's people in my life that I see engaging with a certain post that it's like, I've met you, like we've talked, like I thought we were cool. Like that's definitely a little bit weird, but you know, it is what it is. And you said it better than I could have said it. I mean, you know, it's just, it's information at this point, and you know, now I know. But I don't know, Lawrence, you were on that show. Let's kind of drag you into this mud here. What was your feeling on the reaction to that clip, or if you have anything else to say?
First, I knew when you made a video about something like that, that I knew that, like, you know what, you never do that, where you kind of go at somebody if they said a little something like that. So I know, you know, for you to respond to this, it had to be a big deal. But if you watch that video, you saw that he did not watch at all our entire stream. Because what do we do here on the podcast here, or anytime we pick up a microphone, all four of us, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube, we talk about topics that are at hand in our hobby, whether it's comics, manga, trading cards, TCG, whatever it is. Like our job, I don't want to say our job, but what we like to do is talk about the topics in our hobbies. And we did that. We raised questions on that stream. We asked if if manga was a long-term thing, does it have legs? That was, you know, our conversation on that podcast. And for him to kind of rip that apart and take what he wanted and put it out there, I could tell he didn't watch the whole thing, because our conversation surrounding that really had nothing to do with Logan Paul at all, or, you know, pushing manga whatsoever. We asked the question simply, does this have legs or not? And for him to put that out and not really do some homework is a little bit disappointing. As to what you were talking about, our people we know kind of commenting in the stream, I hate to say it, but once we're kind of out there, YouTube, Instagram, wherever, and we kind of put ourselves out there, we're always going to be called into whatever, always going to be scrutinized. I've known that for the past 7 years. It's gotten a lot better over the time. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people, I don't really get too much anymore. We get a little here and there. I sent you something before the show, Swag, about, you know, somebody sent me a message, but outside of that, you know, just disappointing from other guys who kind of are in this space to kind of put something out without hearing the whole thing.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? You parasite.
I was lucky enough to be in Phoenix during this episode, so I completely dodged all this.
No, yeah, you are in this. We are dragging you in this.
No, I'm not a shill. Wasn't there for the shill, the double shill, the triple shill. I missed all that. It was great.
You wrote the book
being
on
an
the
outside
double shill.
observer on this one.
All right, well, let's ask this. Let's kind of make it a broader topic. You know, we kind of round this one out. Let's talk a little bit about, like, you know, the shill aspect, the market manipulator, that whole thing. I think it's an interesting topic as someone who like makes content. You know, like what the responsibilities are, like what, you know, people's expectations are. Do you guys have like any thoughts of like how you're supposed to approach that in a responsible content creating kind of way?
Like around a company or around like a collectible item?
Well, let's say, like, obviously if you have like a sponsorship, I mean, you're going to have a sponsorship, you're going to do that. But I guess, like, you know, maybe where I'm getting at it as it relates to the topic is it's like, we're just talking about manga. And I think a lot of times people think that we are saying, hey, this manga sold for record, this is a good thing. But it's like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's sold for this record. But like people kind of interpret it as like, hey, you're promoting this. If you talk about it, you're promoting this. If you talk about a comic book that has gotten hot, well, you're making it hot. If you buy an arcade flyer for Mario and you're sharing it, well, you're promoting it. Like, what is that balance, or how do you approach, you know, that aspect to it?
It's like, didn't Comic Tom used to get shit for being like, why do you cover the top 10 hottest books? How come you're shilling the top 10 hottest books of the week? And it's like, I'm just making a video about the top 10 hottest books of the week. I didn't decide what the top 10 hottest books of the week is, or insert card or insert whatever here. Like, you're not the reason the manga sold for a record price. You're not Logan Paul. You're just covering it. Yeah. There is, though, like, and I think this happened more back in the early days of like COVID, when, at least on the card side, because everything was going up like back then. So you could easily make like oh, here's what I would recommend buying, or here's what I'm buying, or whatever, because there was no risk in it because everything was going up. Like I haven't made a video like that in 4 or 5 years, but I absolutely probably have videos on my channel about like, here's the 5 cards I'm investing in now. And back in COVID days, we used to see that a lot in the comic book side too, from a lot of creators, because the market was so euphoric, you weren't worried about catching blowback if something actually went down, because it was just everything was going up. And now if I made a video like that, if I come out tomorrow with a video about like the top 5 cards to invest in, I would get murdered in the comment section. Like people ask for that content and I'm like, no, like it's not worth it, because one, some people will follow that advice even if you're not fully giving it. I remember very early on, I was never like super over the top about telling people what to buy, even in the crazy COVID days. But I distinctively remember I think it was a Kyler Murray card of all things. And I had a bunch on a saved search flagged, like the item favorited, because I thought it was too cheap. And I just like mentioned it in a video, like kind of as a semi offhand remark. I was like, oh, look, this one sells for this, and this one's selling for this, and this one's selling for this. And that feels kind of off. Like this one should be more in line with these other 2 or whatever. And then I didn't think anything of it. And the video went live. And like the next morning I wake up and every one that I had favorited got sold. And I'm like, did I do that? Like, was that me? Like, I don't know for sure, but it was kind of like this wake up call moment of like, oh, okay, I need to be even more careful than I already am about what I'm talking about on this stuff. And like I said, that was 4 or 5 years ago. That was very early on in my channel. And I was just like, ugh. Because people listen to us and they will run out. And, even if you say like, I'm not telling you to go buy this, I've had plenty of people be like, hey, I got back in the comic books just from you randomly talking about comics, or I bought a Hulk 181 because you bought a Hulk 181 and it like got my juices flowing and I wanted one of those. I'm sure you guys have all had similar experiences like that.
Well, it's funny. It's like I don't think that's a bad thing. That obviously, if you're telling someone to go out and buy something because you think it's going to go up, that's a different story. But if you're talking about something that you enjoy, and someone thinks about it and say, "Wow, I haven't seen one of those," or "Wow, I really like to have one of those too," I don't think necessarily that's a bad thing. If you enjoy it yourself, you want that. I talk a lot of stuff about toys, and you see all the crap behind me that I buy that I talk about because I love it and I have a passion for it. So if I'm relaying that passion, and someone else has that same passion and they go out looking for it, is that really our fault? I mean, if we're just talking about it because we enjoy it.
It's not, but a certain segment of the comment section will say that it is.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
It's a hard balance to do. I mean, but at the end of the day, I think we all just sort of try our best. And it's just really funny when, you get pulled into a clip and accused of being a market manipulator. Like that gives me a lot of credit. Like, it's like you said, Rob, like occasionally you can do a thing and maybe like if you talk about something, 5 people will buy something on eBay. But like to market manipulate in like a real big way, like to make a Dragon Ball Z sell for $40,000 on Heritage, it's just like you're giving us way too much credit. As much as I'd love to be able to say that I have that much influence, it's just not how it works.
Well, there's the other side of the spectrum too, which is kind of why I asked the clarifying question of like, when you cover companies doing stuff and there's a segment of the audience that you can insert whatever company you want, grading company, a manufacturer, doesn't make a difference. If you're covering something that they're doing, they just want you, if you're not immediately hating whatever it is that they're doing, you're just instantly a shill for whatever that company is. Even if you're like lukewarm on it, I could be like, this is whatever. I don't really care. This doesn't really offend me, but it's whatever this new policy is or whatever they're doing. And it's like, because you didn't make a video shitting all over it, it's like, oh, you're such a shill for them.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Because actually, a lot of times I will, like you, Rob, will cover something. Hey, CGC launches this new such and such thing. Okay. And then we talk about it and I just say like, here it is. And I don't really put too much opinions in it. Maybe I'll make like a little like sarcastic, kind of funny or something like that. That's like, if you read between the lines, you probably know my opinion. But generally, I'm more presenting this thing. And then it's up to the viewers to decide like, what they want to do with that information. But you're right. There is like kind of a bias where it's like, if you don't automatically meet it with, suspicion, then that's kind of a assumed endorsement, which it's really not. It's really more, hey, this is just the thing, and I'm letting you guys know. At least that's how I think about it.
Yeah, I always like when you share in our private chat, you're like, one day you'll do a video and you'll get like 3 comments that'll be like, you're such a CGC shill. And then the next day you'll get like 3 comments about, oh, you're such a PSA shill. And it's like, well, can you really shill for both? Like what? I guess that's the double shill technique when you shill for both.
That is the double shill technique when I, promote both grading companies. Well, I think we can kind of move on to like, our other topics here, or at least kind of, put a period on it. Very interesting stuff. Again, shout out to Mother's Basement. That was a interesting video. Hopefully in the future, you subscribe to our show and watch us because, you might enjoy some of our conversations, because I think actually we kind of talked about a lot of the things that you had issues with in that video. I mean, we kind of talk about those topics as well. But I will point out that, he did say that, there's no way that the first Dragon Ball Z could be selling for that much money. I will point out that there is currently a golden auctions trading card manga auction going on right now. A Pikachu illustrator card in a 5 is already at $282,000. We have another Pikachu card that's at 1.3 million. But now we are seeing this Weekly Shonen Jump number 51, this first appearance of Dragon Ball Z in a 7.5, so higher graded, already at 48,000 with 1 day and 1 hour to go. So at this point, this market is set. Now, whether or not it's, market manipulation and hype because of Logan Paul, I think that there's a fair argument to be made. But either way, I think like once you start to get multiple sales of a thing, like now this is, at least for the short term, kind of the new market. And so that's kind of crazy.
I just wanted to know, like, were you invited to the Logan Paul private party at New York Comic Con? Like, are we all like, dude, when he DM'd us in the group chat the other day about hanging out when we're all in New York, like, are you down for that? Like, you didn't say if you were going to be able to make it or not.
Don't say that. Don't. We're not supposed to let people know. We're supposed to like do the triple shield technique where we pretend to not know.
Are we allowed to tell them how they gave us like ringside seats to like Monday Night Raw for?
Honestly, I might start promoting Logan Paul if he gave me ringside seats to WrestleMania. I got to be honest, guys. Like that might be my price point. That would be pretty awesome to be there. All right. Anything else before we kind of move on to the next topic here?
I like chat. Tell us what to buy in all caps.
Well, I'll tell you what not to buy. What not to buy right now is graded PSA comic books, at least for that of X-Men 94. Because, guys, the biggest shill there is for CGC, Ryan, otherwise known as Automatic Comics, had this post in relation to a recent Heritage Platinum auction. Yes, that is the double shill. Shout out to Heritage that had their recent sale for a lot of massive Grail comic books. We're going to talk about those in a second. But I wanted to point out this post right here, which had an interesting case study where we saw an X-Men 94. This is the second appearance of the new X-Men team, both in 9/8 that sold back to back, literally in the same auction, one being a CGC 9/8, one being a PSA 9/8, and the CGC 9/8 got a $6,100 premium. The final sale for the CGC, $21,960. The final sale for the PSA, $15,860. Same book, same grade. CGC even had worse page quality, but sold for 38% more. Lawrence, you're going to have to take the CGC shill side seat for this one. Did you see this sale? Did you see this post? What did you think about this one?
So yes, 100%. I watched the video. I saw the post. But I'm going to say this, and maybe it's just the post. If you look at the two comics side by side, it does look like the CGC comic is a little bit more, I don't know if it's crisp, if that's the word I want to use. And it could be just a picture, but you guys let me know what I'm seeing. But it just seems like the black are more dominant than the book on the left. I don't know if it's my eyes. You guys tell me, but and maybe just a picture, but it looks like the CGC copy is a little bit more crisp than the PSA copy. But again, it could be just a picture. So relay me that. But I got to say, this is not a shock. We've kind of seen this so far in comics over the past however many years when the other graded companies around, that CGC is basically outselling price wise, same comics and other, grading companies. Am I shocked? No, but I thought it would be a little bit closer than what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, this
this
is
is
a
a
very
pretty wide
similar,
gap.
pretty similar gap to where we were with CBCS, kind of like, around the end times for CBCS. Yeah, Manu, what do you kind of think about this one, or Rob, if you got thoughts on this?
I want
sale?
to ask a question that I don't think people would. I mean, I like PSA, so I don't even.
Just
wanna
triple
ask this
shill. It's all
question.
right. Quadruple shill. You might need
This
to
is
use
the
your shill
reverse
powers.
shill.
We
This
already
is the
know.
reverse.
Do you have
I'm
dinner
shilling.
with them after this? Is this going to
No,
lose your dinner
I'm going to end up
reservation?
shilling CGC with what I'm about to say. Does this mean? I can't say. Does this mean
Means you buy the PSA and then send it in the CGC.
Does that, he said it. Neo said. I didn't say it, guys. Neo said it. Is that what this means?
Well, you could, but the PSA sold for more than what the 9.6 value would be. So there's a gamble there if you're cross grading it and getting a lower grade.
I want to tell you though, and I don't know if this is great to say either, but PSA grades pretty tough. Now, I don't know if that's universal. I don't know if that's across the board, but I've submitted some books.
I heard they hand out gold label Malibu Suns left and right.
There's been one. And I bet it'll only be one.
They only give those out to the shills, though.
I'm curious, and maybe this was covered. Is that CGC price in line with where they have been selling?
Oh, it's a good question.
So it's a very soft sale. It like probably one of the lowest sales for this book in many years, but based on like COVID froth and like as things have kind of been correcting back down, it's probably selling in line now to like, yeah, this is now like what the price should be, if that makes sense.
Can I get back to shooting myself in the foot? Can I bury myself a little deeper here?
Sorry,
bury away.
It's all right. And Tom, our friend in the chat here, says PSA grades 9.8 is harder for sure, and that's been my experience as well. Look, I grade 9.8s, and I've graded a lot of 9.8s with a lot of different books with CGC for years, and I know when to anticipate a 9.8. I have a pretty good rate of success. And I've gotten some grades back from PSA that I'm like, wow, they're really, really detail oriented with some of the imperfections. And I mean, and I'll even go so far as to say even books that I thought would be, 9496, come back 9092. And maybe there's just a broader opportunity there for someone that has a very detail oriented eye, that has an opportunity to inspect the book, albeit it's encapsulated. So you have to inspect it through the encapsulation. But there could be opportunity there, right? If you are looking at a PSA graded book that seems to be graded harshly, you might not be wrong, compared to what you might anticipate from CGC. You might not be wrong. There might be real opportunity there. And this is the ungraded truth. And I think that could be somewhat of a fact for a lot of books. But that doesn't mean that I don't like grading where the grading is harsh. That just means I need to get a little bit more strict about my submissions. I have not gotten gift grades or even close to them. And even with CGC, I don't like gift grades, because gift grades, if they're obnoxious, if they're atrocious, they're a terrible thing, right? If you get a 9.8 and the thing should have been a 9.294, well, then you don't feel good about selling it. And then it's just it's just a bad thing all around. A gift grade is actually a curse in a lot of ways. But anyway, that's it. That's my little thing about it. And so there could be some real opportunity out there.
I have a question
I would throw in there was that PSA has very detailed graders notes as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at something and you're like, especially in a non-9.8, like they're from what I have seen on stuff that I have had graded that came in under and stuff that I've looked at, their grader notes are very in depth compared to CGC, so that could give you a little bit of an edge if you're like, oh, okay, I think maybe that could go from a 9.4 to a 9.6 or a 9.8.
And we have another comment. Happy Hour comment says, "Come on, man, don't reveal this." Oh, damn, I shouldn't have read that out loud. But anyway, I've already done it. He said PSA for sure grades harder in his experience as well. And I've heard that, man. And I think they take pride in that. And I think CGC may be a little loose in some ways. So anyway, take that for what it's worth.
So my question is, both of these comics sold on Heritage in the same auction, correct? So would the PSA slab have done better if the other 9.8 CGC was not in the auction. Now, I've said this before about Heritage. I love them, but at the same time, when we have multiple copies of the same book, one always gets destroyed. It's just as far as of what I've seen, no matter what genre book, could be bronze, could be silver, could be golden age. I've seen multiple Superman ones like a few years back, a year ago, whenever it was, that one of them absolutely got killed. In this instance, if the CGC book wasn't there and it was just a PSA 9.8, could it have done better and not as bad as it did?
Potentially, that's a great question to ask. I don't know what the answer is, right? We'll never really know. Here's what I will say that maybe kind of relates to that question. And this will be my of course, Swagglehouse got a shill for PSA here. But this is one, not surprising to me, that CGC outsells PSA in this venue on Heritage auctions, where Heritage is an institution that's been around for many years within the comic book space. The people who buy mostly from Heritage are a certain type of collector who for years and years and years are, CGC collectors. Like, this is that demographic. This is the type of auction that has Action Ones, Detective 27s. Like, this is the type of people that have a financial interest in CGC remaining the premier company, because 99.99999% of their collection is in CGC. So it's not surprising that the clientele would put a premium on CGC over PSA. I would love to have seen this experiment done on golden auctions. Now, I'm not saying that PSA would sell for more than CGC on golden auctions or whatever, but I think you might see them sell closer. That's my speculation. And that's the one thing that I'll throw out there as it kind of relates to your question, Lawrence. Could it have done better? Maybe, but I don't know if Heritage, the type of buyer that's on there is as big of a PSA fan for comics that maybe some of the other people on other platforms are maybe more open-minded to it. It's been my experience when I've looked at values and compared them, I see PSA selling pretty in line to Copper Age books. You could find an ASM 300 sell roughly around the same price for a CGC book, a Secret Wars #8, a X-Men 266, or a modern book sell kind of the same. That's kind of where I see that demographic of buyer. And you can kind of picture it, right? The concentric circle of the person who likes ASM 300 is also probably a PSA collector who has Pokemon cards. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a certain demographic and a certain type of book that does okay with PSA. Again, I still think it's not surprising. I think CGC is still the premier value book. I've said it here. People call me a PSA shill, but I'll be the first person to tell you, if you have an expensive book, you're better off sending it to CGC, because that's the more guaranteed value to get out of it. I think there's no question about that.
I think you just hit on something big, is that now in comics especially, not only do we need to know the price of these books, you need to know where they sold, because that's really going to give you a lot more information about what a book is actually worth.
True. What were you saying?
Swag, did you pull this up? The PSA one, does it look like I assume it looks like a legit 9.8? Is the story here that the person that got the PSA just got a way better deal because they bought a true 9.8 book and saved 30%?
I'd like to pull that up as well, actually.
Let's find out together here. Let me see if I can.
What is that? 90,
give me a second here, guys. Give me a second. Yeah. Manu, what were you saying, though? You were going to bring up a point as I pull this up.
Damn, I think I lost the point. But I guess while you're pulling it up, I will speak to something in the comments here. A friend of ours says, I think CGC grades 9, 9s, and 10s harder, though. And then another friend comes in and says, basically saying not necessarily, because that GSX 1 9.9 was clearly not a 9.9. And what I'd like to say to that is the 10s are, I'm not going to say easier. I'm going to say you have a higher likelihood of getting a 10 through PSA, because PSA doesn't have a 9.9. So anything that might have been a 9.9 or is much nicer than a 9.8 is immediately considered for a 10. You don't have a 9.9 basket to fall into, so you do have a higher chance of getting 10s. But I will agree that I do not think 9.9s are scrutinized as they should be. I think there's just this weird thing that they do about gatekeeping them and not giving them out. And sometimes they choose to give them out and they don't live up to people's expectations of 9.9s very often. Like that Ultimate Fallout 4, you got 8,000 copies, 6,000 copies of 9.8s, whatever it is. We've all been waiting for a 9.9. And when they finally put out a 9.9 of an Ultimate Fallout 4, it's got this big tick on it. Now, yeah, the book does say that a 9.9 can have a small tick on it, but no one wants to see the first out of 6,000 having a tick on it. So that's just a choice, not an actual, like, it didn't get it because it deserved it. It got it because someone felt like giving it, or maybe there was a reason for it. But I will say that 10s do seem to be quite difficult from CGC, which is why we often say that a 10 from CGC, if it stays as strict and as rare and as much of a unicorn as it has historically been, a CGC 10 might be, if we compare it to the card world, like a Beckett Black Label 10. And it could be the most valuable version of a book, right? So you would have the CGC 9.9, the PSA 10, and then the CGC 10. Maybe that is the hierarchy there.
Does it mean it look like the CGC book, the reds are a little bit darker? Now, it could be just a scan here that you know, PSA has in their book that's making the reds look a little bit brighter than the CGC one. It could be me, but like I can't tell. It might be that red label that's actually making the reds look lighter to me. But it does look like if you scan over the book that it's a little bit darker. But I could be wrong.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it looks like the colors on this one definitely look better. You know, again, I don't want people to think that like, oh, this is cope, you know, you guys are chilling for PSA. Like, again, this doesn't surprise me that the sale happened. The big thing for me, or the price difference happened. The big thing for me, though, would be that I would love to see this happen on Golden Auctions. I'd be so curious.
What did you guys decide about the comparison? They both look good, right? I just zoomed in on the 9.8 from PSA. Looks like a great looking 9.8. What's that CGC one look like? Did I miss that?
I think they both look acceptable 9.8 level to me. So, you know, again, it's you know, not really a surprising thing. I think it's going to take years and years and years for PSA to ever overtake you know, CGC in the comic value market. One thing I do want to say about that grading harder thing, I find that just really interesting. Like, to me, like, I don't know, like maybe people are going to say like, this is like, you know, I shouldn't have this mentality, but like, I don't know, if I was PSA, that would not be my MO, is to be like, hey, we're going to grade harder. Like, that just makes like no sense. It's like, feels like it's going to be a losing strategy. Cause like, I know we all like to say like, yeah, security matters. And like, yeah, like, you know, grade standards matter and all this stuff. It's like, you know, what matters is like getting the highest grade you could possibly get, thus the value out of it. Like, that's what people really care about. And if you know that if I send my book into PSA, I'm going to get a 9.6 versus if I send it into CGC, I'm going to get a 9.8. I mean, you'd be a fool to like send it into PSA.
I hear you. Ken, for a moment, speaking to what I think I heard Lawrence and you guys talking about the reds on the PSA versus the CGC, how the CGC slab looks, the book looks a little bit darker, a bit richer, a bit more saturated. I wanna take a moment just to look at that PSA slab and take a look at the red at that label. Even the label looks a bit orangey and a little not dark enough. So that would lead me to believe that this isn't a fair representation of the saturation of the colors, because the picture itself seems to be a little bit faded, not just because that's not the shade of the label.
That's why I brought it up, because it does look like it's no, it does look like it's a like it looks like the scan. However the book got scanned, it's doing something to the book. But keep in mind, if that's what people are seeing when they're going to bid on the book, to me that's an issue as well.
Yep,
yeah,
100%, 100%.
Yeah, you can see like the back of the CGC versus the PSA.
Pull it up on the PSA website with the cert number. What does their scan look like?
Ooh, that's a good point.
All right, we can
go down the rabbit hole. Let's go down the rabbit hole.
let's rabbit this hole.
This thing.
What?
All right, you're gonna have to, you know, talk about stuff. You know, tell me a story while I pull this up here.
The news minute, go.
No, it doesn't start yet. I'm not ready for it.
No, we gotta save that.
Yeah, we'll save that for the. And I'm still thinking about whether I actually need to say what I should. I'll say it. You know, I'll say it. I'm an idiot.
We just got to get him going. Once he gets rolling, he'll go.
I know, and I have immediately. I regret it. You guys have no idea. As soon as the stream ends, I'm like, why did I say any of that? You know, it's just how it goes. But that's what I'm here for. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
You got to be you, man. You got to tell it like it is. You know, you're only stating an opinion and you're giving your feelings about the situation. And I think that's fine. You're not saying anything wrong.
I appreciate
Oh,
that. I
look at
appreciate that
this! Look at this
encouragement
little difference
Pull it
right
up.
here.
I want to see. I want to see.
We got it. We got a difference. Okay, so
Look
this
how-
is the heritage, and then now we're here. It's a little more saturated over here.
Yeah. So that's heritage then, right?
Uh-oh.
That scans not as dark as it could have been on the heritage
I
auction.
don't
yeah.
like that wrap on that one.
Yeah,
They
the wrap
both-
is a little bit.
But
a
they
little
both
bent.
have that. They
I
both
actually
have
think the
that.
CGC one was too. You just can't tell because of the white background.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
both have the white from the spine
Yeah,
showing.
But CGC
To
is the
be
same
fair,
way. Same wrap.
yeah.
Actually, the CGCs might be a little worse.
These are both great looking 9.8s.
I wouldn't want either one of those.
Oh, you
Well,
know what?
either way,
I'm
very
sticking with
interesting.
I hate when the wrap shows like that. It drives me nuts.
I agree with you. I'm the
Yeah.
same way. Especially you're going to pay that
Yeah.
much for the book.
I would rather have a 9.6 that has a clean wrap than a 9.8 that has a wrap like that.
I don't know about that
Well,
one.
Well, either way, I think that was probably the most interesting.
Wait, let's
kinda-
not. Let's. Oh, sorry, Swag. Let's just not. No,
Yeah.
let's just not roll over that real quick. So Neo said he would rather have a clean looking 9.6 than a 9.8 with a wrap, and Lawrence really quickly was like, "Oh no, about that
only,
one."
only,
Well, that's because,
only because
I'm a
I-
true collector and he's an evil dealer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what it is? If it was something that I thought like, you know, that couldn't be helped, like that's how the book was printed. That's how it was put together. So like, I get it. If I was going to spend that type of money, I agree with Neo. I'd rather have a book without a miswrap like that. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I'd want a 9.6 over a 9.8. That's all.
You
But
know-
I think
you know
he's
what?
right.
Well,
As a
I'm
collector, I want
factoring in
the.
price difference too. Like I would rather take the discount on a 9.6 with a clean wrap to have behind me versus a 9.8 with a bad wrap.
Rob, why do you need to look at a wrap? Okay, when all you got to do is just look at that right there.
Just look at the
Oh, I
label.
That's what you look at.
I forgot.
You know,
Buy the label, not the
if it was,
book.
I want the 9.8 with the better wrap. I don't even want the 9.6. I want the 9.8 with the good wrap.
That's
That's what I'd be. If I'm going to spend that kind of money,
You got to be picky. You have every right to
Yeah.
be picky.
Fair enough. Well, again, that was one of the more interesting sales comparisons that kind of came out of this auction. We obviously had a lot of huge books go up for sale. A Detective 27 and a 6.5 sold for 1.5 million. Again, shout out to Ryan. He made a video about this if you guys want to watch his breakdown. But he did kind of iterate that he felt that this was kind of a soft sale. And he was, overall, which I kind of agree with him. It's like a lot of that high end books are like not quite blowing up in the same way as sort of the mid-range books. And my thesis as to why that is the case is that the mid-range books are for the people who are like big comic collecting fans. Like, and I know it's still a small percentage, but like, let's say that person who's buying between like a $10,000 and a $50,000 book, it's like, that's like a hardcore collector who's putting a lot of money into this and they want those types of books and they're passionate about it. The ones that are spending 1.5 million, like, I'm sure there's collectors that do it, but like, these are like the big whale tourist collectors that it's like, oh, I just want to like spend $1 million on a Batman. And my theory as to why you're having strong mid support but not so strong high-end support is that like the tourist, like big money billionaire collectors are just not interested in comic books. It's like the comic collectors that are interested in comic books are still there, but like the broader market is just not interested in it. And that's kind of just my general theory. I don't know if you guys kind of feel that to be true in general, but I think like the big money, like the celebrity big money, that's all going into trading cards.
Or manga.
Or manga. That's true.
Asking for a friend. What did any low grade AF-15 sell on this? By a friend myself.
I'm sure.
I think
I'm
it
sure
passed
one
one.
did.
I'm just curious
low grade.
how they stood up against. Only there was a search feature. Do you know
All right,
how to
Amazing
spell
Fantasy. We have a 8.5. We have a signed 7.0. We have a 6.5. We have a 5.0. And the lowest grade was a UK price variant. That was a 4.5.
Oh,
That
Would
went
you
for
do a UK
36,000.
Neo?
nah.
No pence for you.
Dang.
You
No
know,
love for our brothers over across the pond. But one thing that I did think was interesting, probably the other coolest sale or most interesting sale that came out of this auction was, in fact, this Marvel Spotlight 5 That was a first appearance of Ghost Rider in a 9.8 with white pages. I believe there's only like 8 copies on the census, and this was one of the books that sold in 2021. That sold, and it sold for like $250,000. Like, and that was like an insane sale. Like, oh my God, this was a book before COVID that was whatever it was, like 20 grand or something, and then it went to like 250. And we hadn't seen one come up for sale again for like many years. There was a private sale that was like 300 grand, but like private sale, you know, whatever. But like then this one rolled around. And a lot of people were thinking like, okay, well, obviously the correction is coming for this book, but this one sold for 244. That was really impressive. So this to me was one of the most, you know, impressive big sales of the night.
244,000, and we can't get the grade centered where it should be on the label.
Man, how irritated would you be?
Oh my God.
I would be, I would go nuts. I hate, that's the worst thing that CGC does, in my opinion, that it's not centered.
I am so glad you
once
pointed that out, because that is so true. It is so true. Like how are they going to like look slab to this thing, a 6-figure book, and then look at it and be like, yeah, it's good, you know, off to the buyer.
Not to mention, once you ship it, it's going to be a 9.4 when it lands from all the moving around and bumping and shit it's going to do.
Dude,
Spoken like true PSA shills.
It's beautiful. I will say that it looks beautiful.
I was going to say, like, this is like a legit 9.8. Like, this is not one of those, like, you know how, like, with the wraps, like we were talking about with the 94s, where you can see a lot of white here. So, like, prevents, like, spine ticks from showing up. When you have, like, the actual black edge and no spine ticks, that's hard to get.
Whoa,
right
which
there.
inner well is that in? I'm going to pull that up separate. I want to see. I don't see the cavities. Where's the cavities on that? Does it have the cutouts?
Oh, yeah. Now that you say that, zoom back in on that real quick, Swag. I mean,
this is the inner well right here, right? This inner line.
Okay, so this is in some sort of squared off inner well. It doesn't seem like the vacuum sealed. There's 2 types of inner wells that most of us familiar with. One is the book within like a plastic compartment that has these 4 notches, one on each corner, so that the corners are protected if it moves around. But those notches themselves damage the sides of the books about 1/2 inch in when they move around. But this does not seem to be the Mylar vacuum sealed situation that they do. I'm going to look at this a little closer to see if it's something different, something new, perhaps.
I was going to say, take a look at the serial number, see when it was graded.
In the meantime, you know, we can kind of look at this. There was also an original art sales that happened. Just pointing out a couple of notable ones, if you guys want to talk about any. There was an ASM 41, the first Rhino cover, sold for $656,000. Pretty crazy. John Romita piece right here. The first Thanos panel, which I thought was pretty awesome. $325,000 from Iron Man 55. Go ahead, Lawrence. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I thought the Rhino was a little bit underwhelming. I thought we'd get to like 750 at least, but we didn't. Considering, you know, that's really 39, 40, and 41. That's the third Romita cover that he did on Amazing Spider-Man. It's a first appearance. Incredible cover, really undervalued. So I'm shocked. I thought it was going to get to at least 750, possibly even to 9, but we didn't clear that. I was disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. I do actually think, now that I think about it, as you say, I do recall like some other like art people and some private chats and stuff were saying like, yeah, they were a little surprised that it was soft. And I apologize. I didn't quite do so much price analyzing with the OA here, but I do think that the OA was not like it was last year, where like, you know, OA was like crazy, like everything was selling for ridiculous levels. This sort of felt like, yeah, kind of in line. So it feels like the OA buyers are slowing down a little bit. But what is not slowing down was that there was also a Star Wars auction that happened. And Rob, I don't know if you saw this one, but this 1977 Topps Star Wars PSA 10 Luke Skywalker sold for $687,000. This is a card that has a pop report of 9. 687. And what's kind of crazy about this whole thing is that there was a PSA 9 that also sold in this auction, if I can get it to pull up right here. And the PSA 9 sold for $21,000. Guys, buy the card, not the number. I mean, like, isn't this just crazy? 687 versus 21.
Is this my chance to show off my 77 Topps signed by Hamill?
Oh yeah, let's see that.
Guy, oh, let's see that. But also, I want to say
Wait, wait.
Sorry.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Are you holding a $680,000 card right there?
No, it's authentic.
Or Auto 10.
grade, too.
Auto 10. Oh my God.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
had me like, I was like, dude, why are we not selling this thing right now? But what do you guys think about this? I mean, like kind of a crazy sale, right? And like just the price gap. Like I haven't expected the cards. Maybe the PSA 10 is beautiful and all that stuff, but like guys, I mean, crazy, right?
There are still packs out there. So to me, that's nuts. Like, you know what I mean? That's just crazy to pay that kind of money for that card.
Pretty exciting though.
So you're not getting too many 10s on that card. This centering alone is a nightmare on those, let alone everything else.
What did you think about this one overall? I didn't realize that you were a collector here, Rob.
I'm not I mean, I'm not surprised by the price gap difference. Especially 77 Star Wars. My guess is some people probably needed this for a set. And there's probably some very high-end collectors that want a PSA 10 set of this particular. And they're trying to put together the highest graded set that they possibly can.
Right.
And one of these pops up like this. It's like when you only have 9 of something. And like to Mighty's point, yeah, there's loose packs and stuff out there, but I don't know what the total census is on this card. I'll look it up real quick, but you're not getting many high grades on this.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty crazy. Also, the other interesting thing to point out about this is that there was also a Canadian version of a PSA 10 that sold for $375,000. So look at the American bias right here. 2x price for the American version over the Canadian.
So the gem rate percentage on this one is 0.1%.
That's pretty low. That's pretty. How many PSA 9s are there?
Please hold. 90.
90? So 21K. What's the Don Russ value for a 9 for Spider-Man? Manu?
We haven't seen a recent 9 sell, so I don't know. But the most recent sale of an 8 was 6,600, but there was an offer made much higher for that card, but the person that bought the card refused to sell. And so I don't know what a 9 would be. A 9 for 34 has not come up. And there are 2
crazy.
10s of card 34 as well, which have not come up either.
Most of those 77 Skywalkers grade a 4, 5, or 6. There's like in the high 800s, low 900s in a PSA 4, 5, and 6. When you get up to a PSA 7, it drops just below 600. An 8 is just below 400. A 9 is 90, and the 10 is 9.
Wow,
and that's the most graded card in the entire set.
And what did it did 680,000?
687.
687, and there's 9 of them. It's pretty amazing, actually. I'd be hard pressed to not bring mine to market if I were one of the owners. I want to see what another one coming to market would do. Does it get absorbed at even, at anything around that price would solidify the price for me. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Well, we got to move on now to our next story, which was
in a moment. Swag, sorry, because we didn't put a cap on this one thing, and I don't want to have any misinformation out there.
Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes.
Yes, pump the brakes, please. That Marvel Spotlight 5, where we were curious about what sort of inner well that is, I pulled up the CGC scan. It is the standard inner well. This is, again, the Heritage scan is backlit bright, and so you cannot actually see the grooves unless you really zoom in, but it is in a standard slab. So there is not some new inner well. It's what it looks like when you cannot see the details of the plastic, but it's in the standard inner well. Just wanted to clarify that because we, had some questions a moment ago.
Sure. All right. Well, with that out of the way, let's move on now to our next topic, which was a story that happened actually a week ago, but is very interesting. And it's going to relate to something of a grading conversation. But before we get there, I kind of have to explain it. Now, as you guys know, Absolute Batman has been tremendous in terms of its values, in terms of the excitement, the amount of people that are buying it. We recently had Absolute Batman issue number 20 that came out this past Wednesday. But what happened apparently to the order is that the entire print run of this issue that features the first appearance of many Absolute Robins was damaged when DC created it. As you guys can see from this Bleeding Cool article, there was a consistent spine wear that happened over most copies. And here's just kind of like a picture, just so you guys can kind of wrap your head around it. So basically, every single book in this print count was damaged. On top of that, we've kind of had the conversation about Absolute Batman 1 with the variant covers. If you guys remember, when they do variants, they take cardstock and they staple it over the cover A. We talked a little bit about like people removing the Jim Lee cover to sell Absolute Batman. If you guys watched that story, anyways, even the ones that have the staples put over top of them, also a lot of them are damaged, and the comics underneath them are also damaged. Now, DC came out later and said that they apologized to LCSs. They're going to be sending LCSs credits. They can still sell the damaged copies, but they're going to do a second print that ideally won't be damaged, and they'll give like people a credit for variants, and by people I think that they mean retailers. Now, a lot of comic fans were upset about that because it's like, well, that doesn't really do me anything if I'm somebody who wanted to buy this book and my LCS is getting the comp for that, even though they were still selling me the damaged book. We can have that conversation. But the most interesting thing about this, as I think you guys will be most interested in it, is DC also reached out to grading companies. And they mentioned that, hey, graders, please be aware that this was a print run issue. And that was sort of them saying like, hey, maybe you can go a little easy on this print run. I did actually text Sean over at CGC and asked him about this and said like, hey, like, do you guys have like a idea of what you're going to do here? Would you grade on a curve? How would CGC actually handle it? He said that he hadn't got the books in yet, so like they haven't really been able to look at it or analyze it. But I think that that's a very interesting conversation as it relates to us. Like, imagine that CGC decides, hey, this is a print run that was all damaged, so let's grade on a curve, and we will give 9/8 based on a spine tick. How do you guys feel about that if that's actually what they decide to do?
There's no way that they can do that. Like, to me, that would be atrocious. If you start giving 9/8 for a book that clearly isn't a 9/8, if you want to put a note on maybe on the label, fine. Like, Absolute Batman number 20 print issue, whatever, but give it the right grade. I don't think you can go ahead and give a book a 9/8 if it's not a 9/8. But obviously, we've seen that before. So
this has happened in cards before, where there's a few. A very notable one is the 2017 Patrick Mahomes Prism Silver Rookie, which is a very valuable card. There's a known print defect on that card where it has a ton of them have a surface dimple on it, and that's not factored in. Like, if it has a surface dimple, it's not getting a 10, like flat out. Like, it's just not. It's going to get a 9 most likely, or maybe even an 8. And that's not. I can give at least 10 examples out, maybe not 10, but I can give 5 off the top of my head right now of cards that are just like well known in the hobby that, like, for whatever reason, wherever it was out on the print sheet, has a drastically lower gem rate percentage because of X, Y, or Z issue on it.
In the case of that card, are there ones that still get 10s?
With a dimple?
Without it, like maybe, are you saying that there's ones that didn't get manufactured with a dimple?
Yeah, there are some that are, it's not every single card, but if you look at like that set in general, that one particular card has a much lower gem rate percentage than most of the other cards in the set, because for whatever reason, where it was at, where some of them were out on the print sheet or whatever, it had that little dimple placed on it.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Manu? Like, just this idea of like, if the print run is damaged and CGC is like, oh, okay, like then we'll take that into consideration, and maybe they grade easy on 9/8. How do you feel what they should do in this situation?
I do this to you too often, Swag, and I apologize. Sometimes I'm like reading a comment, and I have an opinion on this, but before I give my opinion, I want to be clear. CGC said that they are considering grading that book on a curve because the print run is all damaged?
Well, no, I should say that DC, as it says here, grading companies are being told to factor defects into grades. This is DC telling grading companies.
Okay.
I texted Sean, who is, one of the head graders over at CGC, just to ask him like, hey, what do you think about this? He's like, we haven't gotten any books in yet. So like, we haven't crossed that bridge.
Well, it's interesting. I like what one of you guys just mentioned, that if there's a note on the label saying as much, like this was graded with that into consideration, I guess Lawrence said that, I would be more accepting of it, because it does set a precedence that you don't want. If someone has that book slabbed as a 9.8, unaware of this discussion between DC and CGC, then it leads them to believe that this is what a 9.8 might be, and it sets that expectation. I don't like that. I think that that's no good. Now, if DC is framing it like this is just, consider this a manufacturer defect, and it should be graded around that. We have seen, of course, books that have known manufacturer defects, the defect gets ignored. One very popular example is Super Mario Bros. #1. Each single copy of that is a cardstock cover. Every copy towards the page side has a non-color breaking crease that goes from the top to the bottom. There is not a copy without it. Now, when a grader doesn't know that, they started at like whatever grade, and then you got to fight it, but it gets a 9.8 with that all the time because it's a known defect. If this becomes sort of thought of as a known defect, there is precedence for them giving a 9.8, considering it to be a known defect, a factory defect. But this is a spine tick. It's not like other factory defects. It's not like an overspray that everyone gets, or a printer grabber tear at the bottom of ASM 361 that everyone gets. Like, these are unique defects that people relate to being a factory defect. This one looks like a spine tick because it's a spine tick. And so I am all for it, or okay with it, if there's a note. If there's not a note, I don't like it at all. That's my opinion.
So listen to this for a second. Imagine the conversation of a collector that's not really into all the know-how that we know. Like, we know about this stuff. Like, we know about graded books. We know what to look for. But a collector comes in who maybe likes Absolute Batman. They're reading it and they see this copy on the wall. They know what it is, and it's graded a 9.8 with the defects that are there. And they're going to think to themselves, why is this book labeled a 9.8 if they don't know any better? With that, if there's not an annotation there, if I'm a collector and I walk up there, even if I didn't know anything, I would look and say, this is not a 9.8 to me. I don't know if I see a bunch of damage. If there's a note and you say, well, all these books are printed with, obviously, printing damage, whatever, at least there's an explanation to be had. How many dealers out there are not going to say a word to the people saying, that this is what happened along the way? So I think if they're going to go that route and give these books 9.8s, even though from the naked eye, they're really not because of the damages, there has to be some type of annotation there to kind of let people know.
I agree with that completely. And Brixco has said a lot of really great things in the chat tonight, and he's bringing up something here, and I'm going to add on to what he's saying. He says, CGC doesn't reduce grades for print issues. Radioactive Man #1s, which is a book that I've graded as well, are known for a print issue with a big spine tick that you can get a 9.8 with. Now, the interesting thing about what he's saying is he's right. A lot of copies of Radioactive Man #1, which is a black cover, have this one very prominent, quite large spine tick. They do exist without them too. It's not across the print run. But the interesting thing about that is, if they are lenient on that, is that a 9.8 is allowed to have a spine tick though, right? So that's an interesting nuance in that. A 9.8 is allowed to have more than one spine tick. If all things are great and is a kind of an aggressive spine tick, it can still get a 9.8. So having Radioactive Man 1s coming back as 9.8s with that tick is not necessarily them taking into consideration it as a factory defect, because they don't all have it, but they may actually still be lenient to it, because there are graders that will see that spine tick and give a different book a 9.6. So I'm not disagreeing with you, Brixco. You're making a great point, and I do agree with you, and I am familiar with that book and that defect, but it is not across the print run. And 9.8s can have that spine tick, but along the same lines of what he's saying, because he's familiar with that book, he knows what he's talking about. He's right here. There's another book. There's what is it? What's the first appearance of Batman Beyond? Is it just Batman Beyond #1? No. What's the damn? I don't remember. Anyway,
someone in the chat will say.
Yeah, it's Batman Beyond #1. I think it is. I've had it in a 9.8 newsstand. It's a very expensive book in a 9.8 newsstand, and for some reason, this book, there are 9.8 examples floating around, not just one off, just a one-off example. There are 9.8s floating around with 5, 6, even 7 micro color breaking ticks. And I've never spoken to CGC about it, but I wonder to myself, is that because they know that these micro ticks exist on so many copies, they're a bit forgiving for this particular book? That could be along the lines of the same sort of thing that Brixco was mentioning here. And that would not be allowable from what we understand of a 9.8 if it weren't known to have that on most copies. But There are, again, are copies without those micro ticks, because those are the ones that I like to have, and I look for them specifically and pass on any that don't. Because sometimes this book can spike. This book was 9K at one point. Now it's probably around 4K, but that's still too much money to buy the one with 7 little ticks on it when you can find one without ticks on it when we're talking about 9/8. So it is interesting, but this is all proving the point that it would be so much more clear and advantageous to the entire community for it to be notated. I'm with Lawrence completely on that. That should be what happens.
The one other thing I want to add is that Paul Brixco, he's incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to a lot of this stuff. There are other dealers out there who are not. And to me, that's where the issue becomes.
Yeah. Agreed. No, big shout out to Paul, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Shout out to Prince of Cheds, who had a comment talking about how Overstreet has had times in the past where they've talked about grading on curves for certain books because of print defects and stuff. I think that that's interesting. There's definitely a precedent, as you guys have kind of laid out, for comics like this to get graded on curve. But just for me personally, I kind of just would like it if it was just like, no, a 9/8 is a 9/8, no curve, the whole thing. Because to me, it's cool. Like, what if,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what if there's only like 2 in the entire world that end up being 9/8? Like, that's cool to me. So like, I'm more self-interested in it just being like, oh, this unique collectible that just like was artificially kind of just became this big deal, even if it's like kind of I guess it's a cool book. Like Absolute Batman's cool, and it's the first Absolute Batman Robin, so kind of a key issue within that world. But I mean, I would rather have it be that they were hard about it and just let the chips fall how they do. And because some 9/8s that are actually 9/8s might pop up. I mean, because the most of the print run was damaged, but there are people who are advertising their copies as being a minimal defects or whatever. And this one right here that sold for $75 is actually $50 that sold. Was being promoted as like a high grade copy, but somebody paid $50 because this one wasn't as bad. Like maybe you could press that out, but to me that's kind of crazy that you would pay that much money for a new issue that is still selling at the cover price. But I would rather have it be that maybe this is the one copy, the best copy in the entire world, and let that be the one that
you make a great point. Another thing to add on to that, a layer that we haven't articulated yet is, just let it be, because if most of the copies are going to achieve a 9.6 and let's say there's 1,000 9.6s and there's this 1 or 2 9/8s, the values will reflect that 9/6s are still the 9/8 sort of investable copy, right? Like over time, it's going to be understood that, oh, this thing doesn't even exist in 9/8s. So whatever the 9/8 value would have been, the 9/6 will become that value, and the 9/8 will then represent the 9/9 sort of thing. Like it will just sort itself out. You don't have to fake the number. The market will decide over time by knowing what the percentages are. It will sort itself out. I like the idea of leaving it alone. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's kind of move on now to our next topic here, which actually had to do with New York Comic Con. I made a video this week talking about everyone going on ticket price rants. It's talking about how expensive New York Comic Con has become, where VIP tickets are selling for now $990. This is an increase of roughly $200 from last year, where it was $800, and from 2 years ago, where it was $580. New York Comic Con prices, I mean, it's San Diego Comic Con prices as well. Con prices definitely going up, getting more and more expensive. I kind of talked about is it really worth it, for people to kind of go to cons if they're just there to attend and buy comic books? Apparently the Popverse membership is also increasing in price, $125 just to be able to give yourself access in order to buy tickets to go to the show, which I think is kind of a crazy concept, but I understand why it exists. I mean, there's just that much demand. There's that many people that want to go to New York Comic Con. Rob, I want to kick it over to you here because I think that you might be a Popverse member for this, and kind of get your just general thoughts on prices and how people are upset about this.
Yeah, I am. So here comes the I guess this is a single shill. Yes, I am a Popverse. I do have the Superfan membership. The angle here is on this. The reason that I got it last year was 1, 4-day tickets sell out pretty quick. for New York Comic Con. If you want a 4-day ticket, you were not necessarily guaranteed one waiting for, because the way that they do this is super fans. Like I actually just got my email the other day. I will have the chance to buy tickets on like June 4th or something like that. Whereas everybody else, they go on sale a couple of weeks later. And 4 days do tend to sell out. VIP tickets typically sell out in the first 10 to 15 minutes, usually. Now, I don't know how many of those are people truly buying them versus people buying them to scalp them. That's a whole other bag of cats. Where the superfan thing came in clutch for me, part of that is you get early access to purchase autographs and panels. And if you are going after someone popular, they will sell out, and they do sell out quickly sometimes. So if you have a regular ticket and you're waiting in the slow line, for lack of a better term, and you want someone in demand, there is a good chance they will be sold out before you even get a chance to purchase it. Like last year, was, for example, the cast of Critical Role was at New York Comic Con, and I wanted to get the whole cast signature, and a few of them are extremely popular. Like Matt Mercer sells out very quickly. Ashley Johnson, because she's in a ton of different stuff, sells out very quickly. Same with Laura Bailey, because they're known for Critical Role and also a bunch of voice acting roles and on-screen roles. They sell out extremely fast. And I don't know that I would have got them all without having the super fan thing. So I got it more for the early access to the autograph purchasing and the panels. Like if you want in one of the big panels, a lot of times those fill up very quickly, and if you don't have a pre-reserved slot for it, you're not getting in. So you're essentially, paying to cut the line. It's like going to Disney. Like, do you want to wait in the long line, or do you want to pay a premium? How much do you value your time is essentially what this comes down to. For the VIP ticket, I've never had a VIP ticket for New York Comic Con. I've tried in the past to buy them, but they sell out so fast. To me, the big appeal here is the line cutting aspect of it for autographs, because that line moves a lot faster, and it just depends how much you value your time once again. Now, you do get access to buy like all the pre-con goodies and all that crap, and you get in earlier. Like if you want the exclusive drops like you talked about in your video, Swag, to potentially pay for your trip to flip that stuff, you're going to need the VIP badge to get that stuff. Like last year when we were at New York Comic Con, we tried to get the Marvel Magic promo trading cards, and they were basically gone before we even got in the door. My biggest gripe with all this is, and my wife and I were actually just talking about this last night because she goes to New York Comic Con with me. You're paying up front for this, and especially if you're using it for like autographs and photo ops, you don't actually, there's no announced anybody for New York Comic Con yet. You don't know who like the premier signers and guests are going to be until maybe, they announce people upwards of 30 days before. Like some of this stuff is super last minute where they're like, oh, Tom Hiddleston's going to be here. And the problem is sometimes they're only there on one day. So like imagine you got your ticket to Saturday and Sunday, and then you find out that the person that you were dying to get an autograph from is there Friday only. And then their stuff instantly sells out because, I remember when Tom Hiddleston was there, his stuff sold out instantly. When Ewan McGregor was there, his stuff sold out nearly instantly. That stuff was gone super quick. And then if you don't have a VIP pass, now you're talking about, okay, cool, I'm going to be waiting in line for hours to get that done. Like, is it worth me spending half a day in line or paying up for the VIP pass if you can even get one and getting through that line in a half an hour instead of 4 hours?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I want to bring Lawrence and Manu into this because we talked about a sort of a related topic last time on our show. Manu had to go before we got into it, but I made mention to how, Todd McFarlane has been doing like whatnot signings, and he recently made a post just 5 days ago where he was doing his third within the last couple of months. And in my video, I talked about how, with the increase of these prices, with the risk factor of like, yeah, I want to go and get such and such person's autograph, but like you said, Rob, like I'm not even guaranteed if I don't know which day they're coming. I bought the Friday, they're on Sunday, whatever it is. And if you could just go and like turn on a whatnot and just like, yeah, like maybe I have to bid against other people and it's like more expensive, but like whatever, like I'm already paying $900 to get a VIP ticket in order to get access to Todd's signature. I might as well just sit at home in my PJs and spend $1,000 in his whatnot. I don't know, like what do you make of this, like Lawrence, with like the ticket prices mixed with like online buying? Like, is it just like not worth going to Comic Cons anymore?
It really depends what you're going for. Like Neo said, like if you're going for all the signatures, if you're going for the big names, and I understand why you want to pay that amount, because I'm not spending freaking 10 hours in line waiting for somebody. I don't care. But if you were going to spend that kind of money, you're able to, and you can cut that line and get the signatures you want and have that experience, okay. For me, I go and I get like a 2 days, 1 or 2 days, like Thursday or Friday. I don't really want to go Saturdays because it's insane. Thursday and Friday is insane. But like for me, I'm going there. I think it was like 80 something dollars this year. Now it's like 95. So is $15 to me going to make me not go? No, I'm still going to go. But for the VIP, 200 and something dollar increase, I could understand why maybe people were going to pause. But again, if you're willing to pay $600-700, I'm sure you're willing to pay almost $1,000 now. That's the way I look at it. But again, if you have access to people who you want signatures from, I'd rather pay $1,000 if I could spend like a half hour with Todd. I would do that. I'm not going there for 2 seconds for him to sign a book and be done. I'm not paying it. But, for me, it's more about the experience. I remember a couple of years ago, do you guys remember when the art of Batman 423 sold? Somebody had it for sale. I was standing right on the floor. Todd was maybe like 10 feet away from me at his booth. And they had it like upstairs at the time. It wasn't downstairs where a lot of the signatures take place. He was there and somebody brought over that piece for him to take a look at.
The owner at the time did, yeah.
I was 10 feet away when he was there with my kid. And I was like, to me, just being right next to them, watching them go through that was enough for me. So to me, it wasn't about like spending that money. It was about getting to see that moment. And sometimes just paying the regular admission will get you something cool like that.
I agree. I mean, the experience of just going to the show and hanging out with friends is like really the best part about it. But I don't know. They entertained this idea, Manu, of like this direction that we're headed, where if like, it just becomes more and more expensive and it's not really efficient to like get an autograph from a person there. Like, why wouldn't I just tune into their Whatnot stream? Or if you're Todd McFarlane, like, why would I even go to New York Comic Con and have to deal with it if I could just like stream from my home?
Man, I wish I hadn't missed that portion of the show because I want to be able to talk to some of the points that you guys said as well. So I definitely need to watch that back. Wow, I didn't view our own show. I am ashamed of myself.
You shill for everyone else except for our podcast.
Isn't that a shame? It's always your friends. It's always the ones closest to you that don't show up to the grand opening of your store.
This is that moment. Remember half an hour ago when he was talking about how like people that he thought were his friends were commenting on other people's IG.
I'm telling you, it's the worst.
And now here he is in his own live stream talking about how he doesn't watch the episodes that he misses.
My God.
I can't believe myself. And that is shameful. And I'm going to watch that tonight. But I can't blame McFarlane for just taking it straight to the stream. I couldn't blame Liefeld when he started doing it. Like, why wouldn't you? The opportunity is there. And I've seen some of the announcements for when he's going on, and I never scheduled it, like made sure I was available or set reminders. So I never made it to one of them, but I wouldn't mind, like, I'm not a huge supporter of like everything that happens on Whatnot, but I wouldn't mind opening up the Whatnot app and jumping in when Todd's there. It feels, even though there's a bunch of people in there bidding, there's a bunch of chats going, it still feels rather intimate. There's still something cool about knowing that this guy that you love, respect, and admire is just sitting in front of his phone, and he's just like talking to you. And there is a chance that he's going to see your chat. There is a chance that you can get a rise out of him if you say something or a polite gesture out of him. I remember one time I hopped into a Rob Liefeld Whatnot, and I didn't even know what the hell was going on, but someone in the chat was like, Rob, say this to me or say hello. And then I decided, I thought it was fun. I don't know what I was doing. I was like, Rob, say hi to such and such. And then he read my comment and he goes, hi to such and such, right? And it was such an interesting little situation that took place. Like, how did he acknowledge us in the chat? It's kind of cool. So regardless, I don't have anything like too clever to say about it. I haven't thought about it much. I think it makes perfect sense to go straight to the consumer, right? And I think it's a cool opportunity for the collector slash consumer. It is probably a little frustrating that these are all bid-based opportunities, right? You're not just having the opportunity to buy, you're having to fight for it, and that's not great for everyone. Like, I don't necessarily want to fight in that limited space of time for things that I want, but I think that engagement is quite cool, and I totally understand why creators would go direct to collector. I guess that's what D to C means now, direct to collector or something.
I remember when Todd used to do those drawings. He used to have like a Facebook where he'd go live and like do these incredible drawings like from scratch. Like, we're gonna draw Spawn today, we're gonna draw Spider-Man today, we're gonna draw all these characters. And it'd be like 30,000 people watching him do this live. And that it was just a great intimate experience of him working. I guess it's almost like the same thing.
Yeah. I agree.
I just feel like the incentives are there. You know, like you could just see like where things are going 5-10 years down the road. You know, like how everyone's going to go to the path of least resistance, you know, even with their collectibles. So whether they're Todd McFarlane selling or they're somebody who wants his autograph, you know, whatever is the cheapest, most efficient way to get it is going to be the way in which I do it. And that's just kind of sad, you know, because I think Comic-Cons are really, really cool, but they're just really also very expensive. But I'm still going to go to New York Comic-Con. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I will
one
day.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
New York tax write-off con. I do think on the con thing really quickly, I think for a lot of folks in this, and I don't know how you like there's no value you could place on this, but I think a lot of people just kind of enjoy, like, I don't want to say enjoy waiting in the line, but it's like, it goes back to like that thrill of the hunt type thing. It's like, this is going to be a challenge for me to get all these, or like, this is like something that took me multiple trips over multiple years to complete like this thing. Kind of like, was that like a month ago we talked about that magazine that guy had all the Marvel signatures in?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
there was probably something to that where that guy probably could have got these things more efficiently by just going online and purchasing it or sending it in for a signing event or something like that. But there's something about that, like, no, like, I remember when I went to Heroes Con in 2006 and this crazy thing happened while I was there, or I got this one at Comic-Con in 2025 and I got to meet Swaggle House for the first time. I think there's an aspect of that I don't know how you put. Some people are going to look at that and be like, that's the stupidest shit ever. I could just go on eBay and just buy this right now. But some people kind of value that story behind it, or that trip, or that memory, whatever you want to call it, of that experience.
I was gonna say, it's the experience. That's exactly what it is. It's a memory and an experience you're gonna get by only doing it that way.
And I do want to add this. You guys are right. The experience, that memory, the in-person is a different thing altogether. But I do want to say this part. When I'm imagining what it feels like to watch Todd McFarlane on a Whatnot stream, because I haven't had the time and I haven't made it to do it, I'm thinking of it being intimate, like it's Todd. Now I just remembered that these are like also in collaboration with like CGC and grading companies and things like that, right? And that part of it is not what I'm talking about. Like that, I'm being a bit of a hater here, but I don't want to see a CGC rep hyping up the sale. That I don't like. I don't really care about that. And that's just my truth. But like, if it was just Todd selling something from his living room, that seems really freaking cool to me. But turning it into a corporate thing makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Do we know like what the sold prices look like on his? Like, was stuff selling extremely crazy, or was it like in line with what like a Todd book autograph would sell for? I didn't know if you went back and looked at the sold history.
I didn't look at the sold, but I got like testimony from people, and they just said like, "Oh yeah, dude, like massive premiums on everything." So I think that people are paying for, like you guys said, some sort of experience, you know, a premium memory within it. But I think what you said, Rob, is go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I just saw this actually right before we got on this live stream. Jake LaRavia, who is like a role player at best for the Lakers. His game used jersey sold on Sotheby's, which is like the official partner of the NBA, sold for like $500 because he's like not that important of a player at all. But he went on Whatnot and sold them himself, and they went for like $2 to $3 grand.
Oh,
The
wow.
exact same. It's just a game used, one of his random game used jerseys sold for, what is that, 5x, because it was him selling it on Whatnot versus Sotheby's selling it.
I'm saying, you know, between athletes, artists, creators, actors, writers, like whoever it is in entertainment, I think, you know, 5-10 years from now, every single one of them will have their own Whatnot stream. I think that that's probably just where we're going. Well, Manu,
Yes.
kind of towards that end of the show here, where we might have to do a little bit of a Manu's minute. I have a couple lightning rounds at after, but I want to make sure that we give Manu a full minute here. He is chewing on Blue Chew. So
sponsored by insert erectile dysfunction drug here.
Yeah, we're going to triple shill Blue Chew, even though they're not actually a sponsor of the show.
Okay, I'm going to sip some water. I'm going to take a deep breath. I just have a question for you guys, and it's related to just something that I personally believe, and maybe I'm taking this too seriously, but I don't think so. Like, no, and I would love to hear what some of our friends in chat think about this. So we spoke a few weeks ago about this well-established collector, this sort of like, you know, recognized name in certain communities of Marvel cards and original art related to Marvel cards and things. And excuse me, it's kind of a high-profile guy in that regard, and people have done quite a lot of business with him, and he owns a lot of cool things. He sold a lot of cool things. And then he started scamming. And I don't know how far back the scamming went, but we only recently discovered it, realized it, proved it, provided evidence of it, so on and so forth. And it wasn't just small things. There are some fake sales on his eBay page in the $1,000 range where slabs have been opened up and lower grade cards have been put in, Star Wars cards, Marvel cards. And then he, you know, famously now did the FF48, that $30,000 or whatever eBay sale of a 9.8 FF48, where the copy that was originally encapsulated is not the one that he sold. A lower grade copy was put in. And people know who he is. And there are some institutions and some companies that he was involved with that they silently parted ways, but publicly couldn't make any statements because they just didn't want to. They had more on the line. But there are also people that I know and people that I'm privy in situations that I'm aware of where, and I said as much. I said this, that there are going to be people that won't say anything. And there are going to be people that, for whatever the reasons are, maybe that person has things that they want, or maybe they have things that they want to sell to this person. Because this person from time to time spends money and has money. For some reason, I don't know why he scams. And sometimes he scams to the tune of $30,000, $40,000, right? I'm not sure what the guy's deal is. But it was painfully obvious to me that there were people that had a benefit in keeping that relationship, and so they didn't speak out, even when it was other people that they were close to, friends with, that were being thrown under the bus by this individual or being taken advantage of by this individual. They still played stupid and kept their mouth shut because they're protecting whatever their potential benefit is. Or I mean, I could use a better word here, but you guys know what I'm saying. And so I have a group of friends that we discuss things with in private, and these are some of the thoughts that we had explored. And now different groups, right? Like the Marvel card community, a lot of it communicates in Facebook groups and these member-only groups, and you have to like apply to be a member of these groups, like these things that I'm not interested in partaking in. But certain people start groups and hundreds of people become members, and some people let this guy in. Into multiple groups after the fact. They know what he's done, but for whatever reason, they're accepting him back. I don't get it. Like, I think you got to draw a line in the sand. I don't care what you have. I don't care what you're willing to buy. You're willing to steal from people, scam people. You got to be shunned from the community, right? Like something else has to be more important than the stuff. We love this stuff. That's why we're here. There's no question about it. But when does principle come in? When does honor come in? When does integrity come in? You know, when do you draw the line? Like, sure, you want that thing, you love that thing, but you're willing to support this person? That's where I draw the line. I can't do that. And so there's individuals that I've had these conversations with, and recently and it recently was brought to my attention that someone that I've had similar conversations with bought something from the guy. And when I heard it, I was like, wait, am I wrong? Did this just happen? And he was like, no, I did. I had to think long and hard about it, but I did because, you know, I'm completing this thing and I need this thing. And that's where I was just like, I was so like, for real? Like after he did what he did to people close to us and so on and so forth, the thing was that important? You know, and that it falls apart for me there, you know. And this is someone that I have a good relationship with, and he's probably going to see this. It's probably going to be, you know, it's going to feel a little unfair that I'm saying this, but I'm obviously I'm keeping it vague. I'm not talking about the items. I'm talking about a scenario. And so just to throw it back to you real quick, you guys, where do you draw the line? Like, do you guys know what I'm saying, or do I sound like an idiot? Am I an alien here? The guy scams, steals from friends that we know, people we know. He's part of the community. And when you're buying from him, you're welcoming him back in. You're making it okay. That's why we can't get rid of him, because you guys keep him around for whatever things you want. Where do we draw the line is my question.
I would say
I think
that from, oh, go ahead.
you
Go
go.
ahead.
No, you go first. You go first.
I would say for me, you know, that there's a difference of like, what I choose to do versus what I expect others to do. And maybe that's a little me being like a little fatalist about like how people are, where it's like, yeah, like I'll choose to not buy from somebody that I identify as like, you know, a scammer or whatever. But like, it doesn't surprise me when other people are like, oh, they're going to buy from him when when he has the thing that they need. And it's sort of like, I don't know what to think of that. I don't know what to make of that. Like, it's just sort of like the world we're in. And it made me think a little bit about like, you know, the collectible world is so small that like there's certain channels that like you have to like go through, or there's certain people that like you have to associate with. And like, even like, you know, if you're, let me think of like what it says, like if you're like a dealer, like there's no not being friends with CGC or PSA or whoever, right? Like you can be like so angry at everything that they've ever done, but like at the end of the day, like you're still going to use them, you're still going to like rub elbows with them. And to your point, where do you draw the line? I don't know. I don't know, because I think if it's people's business, they're not gonna stand on business, if that makes sense. Like they're just going to continue to agree to kind of keep going. It's disappointing to think about that. And I wish I had something more interesting to say or wrap it up with. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's like to me, it's like I'm fortunate where it's like, because it's not my main business, I don't have to partake. But for others, like if it is their main business, like I understand it, even though if I don't accept it.
For me, I just think, you know, if you've been in collectibles for, you know, a while now, I hate to say it, but there's just really not, there's a lot of great people in it, but when any type of collectible market, it seems like there's always a bunch of people who've been doing this for a really long time and are not the greatest of people, and they will do anything they can to make money. And unfortunately, some of those people are the biggest pieces of shit out there. And anytime there's an opportunity to make money, it seems like they're always able to rear their heads. That's why, you know, for me, what I've learned over the time being collectibles is that you really have to pick and choose who you deal with. You have to form relationships. You have to go to other people who you do trust to kind of vet certain people. It's just the way it is. If you know nothing about a certain hobby and you want to get into it, the first thing I would do is talk to someone who you do know and you trust to go ahead and find out if it's okay to buy from someone, especially if we're talking about high dollar items. Like you can't just go in blind, even if the person's been in this industry and this space for a really long time. You just can't do it because there's too much risk right now with everything that's gone on, at least for me, what I've seen over my time frame. So unfortunately, anytime there's money involved, there's stuff like this that happens. But as to the fact of why we keep letting these people into our space, I hate to say it, but there's other people who deal with them that want to make money as well. And they'll go to the ends of the earth. It's like what George Carlin said, one of my famous comedians, one of my favorites, that said, you know, they're all in this club, and guess what? You ain't in it.
Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
I think someone in chat summed this up the best. collectibles are a completely unregulated market, and they bring unregulated people into that market left, right, and center. Like
That is definitely
across
for sure.
any category of collectibles, cards, comics, manga, coin, whatever, you name it. There's no rules and regulations in this space, and we've seen how that has played out over and over and over again. And as Swaggle House and I have talked about a million times, we have very short-term memories on this stuff, both with companies and people, where people and or companies do really dumb shit that should bury them in any logical person's mind, and then 2 weeks later we're on to the next thing and no one cares about the last thing. There's no repercussions for an auction house completely leaking everyone's information potentially, or chill bidding, or a person scamming someone, or someone mega bidding, or whatever. They disappear for a few weeks, no one talks about it, and then there's been 3 other controversies because we have the attention of, you know, a 16-year-old girl on TikTok.
Yeah.
To round this off, and on a kind of an amusing, still on this topic, but this guy, a new product comes out. Some people will remember this, some people won't, and some people might not know. But this guy, a new product comes out, and he begins to sell fake one-of-ones from the product that he made. Some of them 5K, some of them 30K. How do you have the gall to fake a one-of-one, knowing that eventually someone's going to pull the one-of-one? How ridiculous do you have to be?
That's what I would have thought too, except that when PSA put out the report, you got people sending in fake Honus Wagners, which is not a one-of-one, but like by all means is effectively a one-of-one. Like, I'm like, man, if people can do it, they'll do it.
It's insane. So that, anyway, that's the sort of person he is. It's interesting. I would never do any business with him. That's just me. I don't care how bad I want the thing, what the thing is. There's some things that just mean more than supporting a person like that to me. So
yeah, I think that there's a spiritual aspect to your collecting. You know, it's good for your soul to like do things right as best you can, interact with good people, like Lauren said, and yeah, pay attention if you know, certain people get called scammers out there. You know, definitely stay away from them. All right, well, we got a few more minutes here, but I'm just going to kind of lightning around a couple other little interesting topics. We don't have to go too much on these, but I figure we should just address them because I think that they're interesting. I mean, I made a video talking about how comicbook.com is now doing their vending machine. I mean, Rob, like, just like clockwork, you know, here we are 18 months behind, you know, cards, and yeah, everyone's getting into it. Like, I cannot believe comicbook.com is now doing a vending machine. I mean, I guess I can believe it, but I don't know.
Say,
you guys have thoughts on this?
I think this was one of my number 1 predictions for this year. Was that, you know, you guys are going to head down the gambling route.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely in it. Another interesting story. eBay is run by a bunch of losers, says GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen. Honestly, I watched a bunch of Ryan Cohen interviews. I like this guy. I kind of want him to take over eBay.
Half cash, half stock. What's so complicated about that?
That's one of the great memes, I think, from here on out. I will say that in his interviews, I did pick up one thing that he said is like, you know, if some people asked him, like Piers Morgan, like, how do you plan on like growing eBay or whatever? And he did put a point of emphasis on live shopping. So I think like a big page out of his playbook is definitely going to be like, hey, we cannot let whatnot continue to be the dominating thing. We got to get eBay live popping. That's where he would go. So whether that's good or bad, whatever you guys think about it, if he did take over eBay, I think that that's going to be a massive point of emphasis.
I think Whatnot, of all the collectible companies, and they're not truly a collectible company, but like they're very collectible dependent. I think they're the one company that could actually fall. Like that in 5 years we're like, oh, I never thought Whatnot would go anywhere. Then, like, remember when people used to buy on Whatnot all the time?
Yeah, it could happen.
Which is like, I mean, I don't know if that's a hot take or not, because they're worth like $1 bajillion, but it just seems like, I don't know. I just feel like of the current major players in the space, they're the ones that I could potentially see getting leapt. Whether it's by eBay or a new player, I don't know. I think eBay is probably the most likely. eBay's biggest problem, and this is something Cohen's talked about, is they move so slow. They are not nimble when it comes to making changes in a very quick evolving market like collectibles.
Would you say that because I do not have an emotional connection with Whatnot, but I could be not most people because I don't engage with it enough. But is it fair to say that collectors have an emotional connection with eBay? Like eBay and us go way back. Like, isn't there? Does anyone else feel that way? Is there like some warm nostalgia, fuzzy feelings for eBay? Because I kind of have that.
Might.
I think it's a generational divide of we do, but I don't know that the 16 to 25-year-olds do.
Fair, very fair, very good.
And I think the young generation, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, to them, Twitch and I guess Whatnot are like, it's like live. Like, how am I doing anything that's not a live chat? Like that to them, that's weird.
I am old. You are right.
Yeah, this would be like us, 20 years ago talking about like why Beckett magazine was so important, and today it's completely irrelevant. Like,
shout out Wizard.
Yeah.
Wait, shout out to Beckett though, because they are coming up with new labels.
Oh, yeah,
Rob, what do you think about these ones?
I have them sitting right next to me. They're pretty good. They're not like drastic overhauls, but some very much needed improvements. Beckett's labels were very easy to counterfeit in the past, extremely easy. And this is some much needed improvements on that. And they also used to shake loose in some cases, and these will not do that. And then they made a slight shift to the auto grade as well, which was kind of nice.
It's say what you will about, Beckett, CBCS, like them getting bought out. Like, why is it that like after getting bought out, now they're doing all these things? Like they got the new label, that like the manga thing is like big and popping. It's just like, what were they doing?
It's almost like as many a live stream where we would chat about CBCS, and I would say on numerous occasions that you don't understand what a shit show that company is behind the scenes, and that they don't want to spend any money on it. And now all of a sudden they have new owners. And what do you know? Look what happens when people are willing to spend a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely seemed like new ownership, new blood, new ideas coming out of them. Speaking of new ideas, new things, graded physical music sales are heating up. 50 Cent's album, $1,000. You got the Beatles, $299. Limp Bizkit, $500. Steve Aoki, $380. Guys, Drake just dropped 3 albums. Are you going to get his albums graded? What do you guys think about the new Drake stuff?
I want to hear it. I haven't heard it yet. Iceman, right? I want to hear it.
Lawrence, not a Drake fan.
Not my thing. Like back in the day, we could talk about vinyl, new stuff. No, I'm not feeling it.
Rob, you got any thoughts about the new Drake album? Hottest topic in the world. Biggest news in the world.
Not my wheelhouse at all.
I will say this:
Swag, you and I, bar for bar. Let's just go ahead and start singing some Drake songs.
Oh my God, I don't know if that would be a good look right now. I think he self-owned with his album drops here.
Lawrence, I did not mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
No, I was going to say it's good to see that like old physical media, all of it seems to be coming back right now. Not just like records and whatever. All old physical media, it seems to be really popping.
And I think it makes a lot of sense.
Records are meant to be listened to, not slapped.
Yeah, dude, that's going to be the best. Yeah, records are meant to be listened to.
Just listen to them digitally, collect them physically. That's the perfect solution.
100%. Speaking of people that you should listen to Swag when he talks about arcade flyers. Because shout out to Travis from Landry Pop.
Man,
he's got the Donkey Kong 1981 arcade flyer OA up for sale at his next auction. I couldn't believe that this thing existed. I might have to make a run at this.
I mean, have to.
But like, it's probably going to be like really expensive. I have to imagine.
You have to have a few bids in there. You just have to.
I'm with you because I saw this too, and I'm like, oh crap, because I'm a big arcade guy. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's something you don't see every day. So that's definitely cool.
Yeah, I just felt like, I'm going to be like you said, Manu, when I made that video, it's gonna age well. It's going to age well. It's going to come back and be like, yep, these arcade things actually were pretty cool.
I mean, what are the chances? Look at the timing here. That video is a few weeks ago. I never saw that image before. I never knew about it before. Now the original art is for sale. I'm not saying that one thing's related to the other, but universally it feels like one thing's related to the other.
I got to be honest, like from a guy who like collects a little bit of arcade stuff, if you could find original arcade stuff from when things were actually first made, especially from the early 80s, that when like we had that big arcade boom, if you could find any of those original things, they're worth quite a bit of money.
Yeah. Well, we are big market manipulators and big shills, and we will be pumping the arcade flyers until the end of days, like we will also pump our YouTube channel. Guys, great show tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat for hanging out. If you haven't yet gone over to the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, link is in the description. Get us to 1,500 subscribers. Also hop over to the Spotify page. Give us a follow. Give us a listen. Give us a 5-star review. We definitely appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. A special shout out to Lawrence for once again filling in, taking the heat away from Ryan, who now is best friends with Logan Paul and had to duck this episode. But yeah, we appreciate you. If you guys have not yet subbed to everyone else, links are in there, or links in the description for their socials. Go give them a follow. We appreciate you, and we'll see you all in the next show. Peace out. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.